We were talking on Discord about Discord stuff.
Is it cool if I sit like this so I can...
Sure. I don't even think we're going to show ourselves. We were talking on Discord about
if we're not doing that, then I'm going to sit closer.
We're on this. See the screen over here? This is what it looks like.
Okay.
This is what the internet sees.
Okay. So that's cool if I sit here, right?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I'm kind of underneath the screen, aren't I?
No, you see where you are?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're up here.
Okay.
Which is fine. They are looking at this.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So what is this you want to... We'll get this queued up here in a second.
It's Charlie Kirk.
Hey, there you are. Hey.
Hi. It's him at Cambridge.
This is weird. Versus Cambridge?
Yeah, I guess.
Oh Lord, this?
It's an hour. Yeah, I mean, we don't have to watch the whole thing.
No, I'm not saying that that's bad that it's an hour. I don't mind watching the whole thing front to back. I didn't realize it was this formal.
Oh yeah.
Oh, this is gonna be interesting.
That's why. Yeah, that's why. Because people keep popping up stuff and being like, because I don't know. You'll see. Should I buffer it or no?
Charlie Kirk is the best. Well, you may not like tonight. No, it'll be fine. Yeah, let's buffer a little bit. Give us a little backstory here. What's going on? What prompted you? I would never decide to watch this. You want some of these now?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
My Instagram algorithm seems to want me to see clips of this where he's getting quote unquote owned.
Okay.
And I feel like it's disingenuous because a lot of the people are asking extremely loaded questions. He's also just being very short with them. So I was curious to watch it because I was
probably didn't see the lead up.
Exactly.
We probably didn't see 35 minutes of disrespect.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of curious about because like we've talked ad nauseum in our friendship together about like I feel like it's very important when someone asks you a loaded question to open up their assumptions by asking questions back and trying to get to know them know what they're talking about because then you can like get to what you're actually talking about. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of these questions that these people ask and these clips that people are showing, like literally one of them, some guy asked him like a 5-minute long, like super uppity question.
Sermon?
And yeah. And then he asks him a question and Kirk just responds, no, and then puts his mic back down. And like, I don't like that. But at the same time, I'm like, I mean, it's not like he wasn't provoked, obviously, because that was not meant to be a answerable question. So I was just curious how the whole thing goes.
Peep some of the comments real quick. What does that look like?
You can be cooked this bad and still think you're in the right. Holy generational Oradet. It's a very Gen Z phrase. What is?
I wonder.
What is?
Can you not talk for a second?
Did you say not talk?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, there it goes. I haven't seen any of the videos when he's at a college campus. I'm excited. Okay.
This is an interesting one because I've seen the videos when he's like on the campus. I've watched bits of him being on campus, like in the quad under the tent stuff.
Steven Crowder style.
Yeah, this is.
What else have we got here before we get started? What does this one say?
Didn't know that speaking over someone makes you the victor of an argument. Oh, this is going to be fun.
What is this one here?
DNA is not magical, Charlie. LMAO, I love this guy.
What is this one here saying?
He says Shakespeare isn't taught in college. He might be right because I was taught Shakespeare in high school in the U.S. Charlie Kirk is so brave to be able to post himself getting an intellectual dog walk from people half his age. So far, nobody seems to be on his side.
I'm gonna have you read these next two, and then we're gonna get started.
Okay. Kirk, DNA is created. Guy, DNA is not create. Kirk, let me ask a different question real quick.
Okay.
And then Charlie versus med student was actually one of the best debates on this topic. I wish they had more time.
Okay. I like that one.
We ended on a good one.
Yes, I had a feeling. I could feel it in the air. Okay, let's get this going. Let's find out what happens.
Can we settle down, please? We're going to move on to our questions.
All right, let's look at the volume. That looks pretty good.
First question is from Sinaisha Zubair from Sydney, Sussex.
You didn't know Cambridge is in England?
You didn't know that?
No, I said if you didn't know.
Oh.
Remember, you have the right of response.
I have quite a simple question for you.
Dang,
I know
bro,
you've
maybe I'm not
debated
excited
with
for
us
this.
on Jubilee before. I was wondering why you now refuse to engage with further debate with him.
Wait, hold on. First of all, he's coming on my show this summer, and let me get this straight. I flew 5,000 miles across the world to have you ask why I'm not going to debate a left-wing YouTuber.
Well, I mean, he continuously tries to get your attention.
Off
at
rip.
campus.
Hold on a second, bro. I love you to death, Charlie. God rest your soul, but off rip.
That was combative.
Well, hold on a minute. Here I am, but I can say this. He's in the lion's den, right?
Yeah.
But that hostile energy, it's probably from being in a hostile environment.
Yeah.
But boy, that was intense off the rip.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, again,
Just ignore him.
I've debated him twice in the last calendar year. He's coming on my show this summer. Let me be clear. I came to Cambridge to have you ask me that.
Oh, the YouTubers.
I mean, you talk
Totally
about freedom,
stupid.
and freedom of speech to ask you a simple question.
Hold on, I made us miss that. I'm sorry.
I've debated,
I don't know what YouTuber is she talking about.
The comment, probably.
right, yeah, again,
Just ignore him.
I've debated him twice in the last calendar year. He's coming on my show this summer. Let me be clear. I came to Cambridge to have you ask me that.
I mean, you talk about freedom, and I'm just using my freedom of speech to ask you a simple question. You seem to be dodging it for some reason.
No, I've debated him twice in the last year, and he's coming on this summer for a long-form discussion. But is this what I can expect?
Yeah, he's making videos about you avoiding him on your campus debates.
Right. So let me tell you how this works. I do a campus event like at Texas A&M University. I rent it out. I'm there for 3 hours. He shows up demanding to come up to the mic immediately, cutting in line of other students. It's not Joe Biden's America anymore where you can just cut in line and get whatever you want. So therefore, I say, excuse me, Dean, we'll talk another time. He makes this YouTube video as if I'm scared to debate him, even though I debated him twice in the last year. Does that sufficiently answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
He could have been a lot more cordial to that person. Was that a clip from the middle, though?
I think that was the beginning. I
Or
don't
was
know,
that the
though.
rip?
I don't know, because that's the thing is weird. She said at the very beginning, calm down, everybody. But I can't remember if she said, calm down, let's get started. Because if that was the first thing, that was brutal.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, God bless Charlie. God rest his soul.
Okay,
But
thank you. Can we settle down, please? We're going to move on to our...
okay,
I wonder if he had an opening statement or something.
I
they
think
didn't
this.
show.
No. I think because of this bumper, I think we're looking at something that is in the this is in the midst of it.
Okay.
So see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
this is something that where I
Because
was
he was
kind of,
also taking a drink already, like he had been
I
speaking.
was slightly alluding to earlier, which was that you might end up finding out that for 35 minutes he was being respectful. And then after a half hour of just being disrespected, he's fed up with it. This is interesting to lead in with.
Yeah.
He makes this YouTube video as if he's sick and has had a debate. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, so thank you for coming, Charlie. My question to you, I mean, I'm a medical student, and so I'm going to throw out the big A word. I know you get asked about it a lot, but I want to hear from you what your opinion is on abortion.
Life begins at conception.
But about abortion specifically. Why do you think abortion is wrong specifically?
Well, you agree murder is wrong.
I agree. Okay, so this is where we get to the question, right? Because what is it about murder you say is wrong? Like, why is murder wrong?
Well, because it's a human being, not just because of its consciousness or because it's of a certain age, because it's a human.
What is it that gives human beings this moral worth?
Not its consciousness necessarily.
I didn't say it's consciousness.
I know that I can imagine it because it is a human being that has a soul.
And what is this soul? Where does this come from? This idea that it's...
Exactly. I mean, again, the Greeks postulated that it is the entirety of your being. Okay, you guys can laugh. I mean, it's true. I mean, every
why do they laugh
civilization
at
has had a different belief, but agreed upon ethical monotheism, which is the creed of the West and what the birth certificate of my country articulates, that every human being is more than just matter, it's more than just a clump of cells, but it also has an invisible element to you that will live beyond you.
Everybody laugh because they're pretentious. I think I think I've seen the guy on Jubilee. He tried to debate Charlie Kirk, and it was so trash. He kept interrupting Charlie. Honestly, it was a mess of a debate.
Who's the guy? What was it?
I don't know.
Okay.
I have no idea.
I didn't
who he's
hear the
talking-
name
I don't,
of the
I don't know
person
who she's asking about.
Yeah.
I'm sure Ayako will be able to tell us.
Fine. So, I mean, can you say that comes from the Bible, or where else do you get that?
Ethical monotheism, which is the creed of the West. And again, the Declaration of Independence mentions God 4 times. The founders were explicitly believed, not in a secular morality, but a divinely given one, of at least this idea that there is a God and you are not him. And let me ask you, what is the first stage of human development?
So the first, I mean, this is the thing, right? We can take it from the sperm being generated in the father and the oocyte being generated in the mother, right? They fuse at birth, conception, sorry. The only thing that happens
I
at
don't know who
conception
that
is these two
YouTuber
cells
was.
fuse.
No, DNA is created. The
It's not
zygote.
created.
DNA, no, that's not true. The DNA coding of the zygote. Hold on, time out. Does a zygote have a unique marker?
Charlie,
Does a zygote have a unique
you have to
marker?
let me speak. You have to
Answer it, yes or no. Does a zygote have a unique marker?
define a unique marker.
And can you differentiate the DNA coding between the mother and the zygote if you examine it under a deoxyribonucleic acid analysis? Can you?
Only purely because the addition comes from the father.
Oh, so it is something different.
Charlie, DNA is not created. DNA is not created. You have the father has his own genome, the mother has her own genome. They fuse. This is why you have the same characteristics, similar ones to your mother, similar ones to your father. That's why you have similar characteristics to your siblings. DNA is not created, right? So when you ask me where does a human being come from, I can say to you it starts at conception. But all conception is these 2 cells joining, right? But these 2 cells were created. The mother cells were created long before. They were created when she was a fetus. So there's none of this DNA being produced, right? So we can't establish. The only thing that happens at conception is these two cells fuse. Now this idea that means that for some reason suddenly that moral worth comes in, but it wasn't there before when you had these 2 cells who had half the DNA. But suddenly there's
Correct. Yes, something magical happened.
I gotta say, man, I think they need to do something about the air conditioning in this building, or give everybody a little bit of whiskey before they get in on this. Everyone in this room seems tense, man.
I would. So this is hilarious that we're talking about this in the middle of.
It's giving me anxiety, and
Okay.
I don't get anxiety.
Did you know that air conditioning is not common in England?
Yes, I do know
Yeah.
that. That's why I was kind of like, they need to do
100% probably why it's so hot in there. Because the other thing too is
everyone seems agitated.
Yeah, this would be a very old building because Cambridge is like what 800 years old.
At least, right?
Yeah, like it was founded long before they even discovered like America. Like Columbus didn't
Yeah.
even set sail till like 200 years after Cambridge was a thing. So
Are the Enlightenment era guys associated with Cambridge at all? It makes me wonder. John Locke.
I think so. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know that,
A
but
sidebar: when I read about American stuff and I read John Locke, I prefer that reading over a reading of our founding fathers, the guy that inspired them.
I have a book of his,
Man.
but I have not read it yet.
Man, it's some of the stuff. I remember you saying Pastor Fred liked him a lot, didn't he?
He's the reason that I have a book of John Locke. I just haven't read it yet.
It's his writing is incredible.
I've heard some of his quotes and stuff, and it's good stuff. But did you say something?
So I'll let these guys finish, but since we were talking about abortion last time, it was very interesting that this came out, and so I feel compelled to. I forgot we were live on the internet to articulate to our one viewer a little more of my position. This is an interesting point here. It doesn't matter if the DNA was created or not. The process of a human being showing up has been initiated. The only reason that the process of a human being showing up is de-initiated, let's just say, is if we kill it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you can explain. This is why I don't like talking to the overly science guys.
Yeah.
And why I mentioned in our book a concept that is borrowed from something we used to say, you used to say, I used to say, a combination of us would say in our class, which was trying to find the meaning of life solely from science is like reading the manual for a chainsaw to fully grasp the capabilities of its purpose. Like, it's better for me to go use the tool and really find out what it means. You can't just sit there, okay, great. You can explain that these cells are at this certain point and that's not a human yet. Yeah, but if you stop it, if you don't stop it, it becomes a human.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
There's a process for the life to grow. It doesn't make it not a human.
Right.
And this is weird as a guy that isn't for illegal abortion to argue that. I just don't think that, as sick as it sounds, as a guy that's holding a baby right now, this is the disturbing part of my view, and it makes everyone uncomfortable when I say it, but I'll say it, is that I don't think that the child has any more right to live than any other human. And just because the life is helpless doesn't mean that it is more precious. I treat that as such. But if you really want to get down to the brass tacks of things, that life is not more significant than anyone else's just because it's a baby. And to me, that is derived from the morality that we see present itself in the Bible. God commanding the flood of the earth. Babies died. He did it. He killed all of the firstborn Egyptians. He did that. The Jews didn't even do that. Yeah. He did that. He killed specifically their firstborn sons. God, killing babies isn't off the table for God. And that's where we get our morals from. My problem with abortion is that it should never be used as contraception, and it shouldn't be used as to bail me out of, I had an affair and now this woman is going to have a baby. A spring break mistake.
Yeah.
A teenage fling that turned people into parents when they shouldn't have been yet. No, we can't. But the problem is, then goes into the government. From the moral standpoint, it's toast, in my opinion. It's just like this. We shouldn't do that. It's cavalier. But then when you grow up, and I have daughters, and I think of the possibility of grape. Now you have to have a tough conversation with your kid involved.
Yeah.
And that's just one of the instances that I can think of. And that's when, to me, it starts to become potentially a more complex issue. But really, it shouldn't be so cavalier. That's disgusting to me.
Yeah. Well, so this is the way I think about it too, which is a little different than the direction you took it, but we ultimately don't end up in all that different of a place. But so the consciousness of life, I don't even though a father and mother come together to create life, so and so, they're not actually giving the spark of consciousness. Like, I think that's a God thing. And so if God gives it, God can take it away. When he's flooding the earth, he's not acting immorally by taking away life. He gave that life. It's his to take back. It's not mine to take back because I didn't give it. And so, like, that's where, morality entrenched in, it's my duty to take care of the life that God gave me. That's when you hit the obligation of it's sort of your duty to take care of the life of the thing that's innocent and unable to take care of the life that God gave it yet.
That's a pretty good point. I like that. And Ayako chimed in, yes, but every person should be able to live instead of getting death skulled emoji because their parents wanted to mess around. That is actually very true.
Yeah, I don't like that's the thing.
Yeah, that's a no-no.
I'm okay having the uncomfortable debates with people about like the horrible criminal acts that bring about that decision. I'm not okay with having that debate because someone just frivolously wanted to be a part of hookup culture with no consequences.
Exactly.
I don't think that should be a part of the conversation.
And then that, to me, that wound healing like that solves the problem in a much better way than the law ever could.
Yeah.
so that if we make it unthinkable, that's what Ron Paul used to say. I'm borrowing a Ron Paul quote. If we make it unthinkable, we don't have to make it illegal. The problem is we made this commonplace. And so we have to do that. Charlie Kirk has some really good debates against abortion. I'd recommend looking them up on your own time. I've seen them all, and I still hold to my point.
It's not magical, Charlie. We know about this.
Hold on. Charlie, time out.
Sorry, I paused from this too long. I do love that discussion.
We call it the miracle of life for a reason. We've not been able to yet replicate human life development outside of the womb.
We call it the miracle of life because, yes, it's something beautiful, the ability to form a new human.
Magical.
It's not. You say magical as in, oh, it's beautiful, it's an incredible thing that happens, of course. But it's not incredible in the sense we don't know what's going on. There's no new DNA coming out of nowhere.
Hold on, but time out. Isn't there a separate DNA, though, than the mother? Like,
Yes, from the father.
okay, yes, but it's not the father's DNA either. A new coding is created, or a blend of the two. And so when did your life begin?
Okay, so
When did your life begin?
I mean, again, this comes from what you define as where life starts. You can say life starts at conception, but I'm telling you, I believe that's just an arbitrary point, right? That's just the moment these two cells fuse. Now you say about this mother thing. So the way DNA is arranged in a cell is it's arranged in chromosomes. Chromosomes are paired up, so you have one from the mother, one from the father, typically, in a healthy individual, right? Now, you can take those maternal chromosomes out, and you can find that this is who the person's mother is, and you can do the same with the father. Now, the reason you are different to your mother and father is because some of those chromosomes express genes that are different from each other. And so those genes interact, and that's what gives rise to you, right?
You got to be careful using certain words because then my chat won't show
to
up.
come into that until you consider that a human being is capable of consciousness and of suffering. But if you take that out of the equation, the fact that these two DNA, whatever they molecules, right? These two DNA molecules are fusing. That does not suddenly flip a switch that attributes moral worth to that individual.
Whoa, wait a minute. Moral worth to that individual. Wow. I got a lot of questions I'd ask that guy. When does that kick in, pal?
See, that's what's scary is I think what he's going is what you and I used to talk about, where a lot of people that hold that view that guy has is almost a perversion of like Kantian ethics, where you become a human when you're a rational moral agent, and a rational moral agent is someone who can affect another person's life, which would mean he wouldn't believe that a person is truly a rational moral agent until like 2 or 3.
Which is crazy.
Insane.
Which is crazy. Yeah, and I'm glad that both of you two seem okay with the fact that normally when I have this discussion with people that are very anti-abortion, they don't allow my viewpoint to have space to breathe. And I just wanted to say that I appreciate that. You want some chocolate-covered cherries?
Sure.
I appreciate that. Not getting beat down for that.
Thank you.
I'm just saying, I'm not trying to score points.
By what moral standard do you believe that?
I believe that if an individual is capable of suffering, then it's wrong. Now, can I explain my opinion on abortion
Hold up.
so you can understand?
That was classy, by the way, though. I got to give this guy props. Because after they applauded, the first thing he said was, I'm not trying to score points.
Yeah.
I got to give him props for that.
I do like
That was pretty.
I
that was
also
pretty
do like
classy.
that Kirk is not. He's picked up the mic twice and set it back down, which I also am like, why you keep setting it back down? Just hold it in your hand, dude. But he's setting it back down and letting the guy talk to finish his full point.
That is cool. I think
So they're being slightly cordial right
I
now.
think they respect each other.
I would agree, as many reasonable people would, that at 9 months, it's unreasonable to expect someone to get an abortion, right? Unless you have some extreme circumstances. But for an elective abortion, seems a bit radical to me. But it also seems radical to say that a woman
9 months?
has just, the cells have just fused, to deny her of an abortion also seems wrong to me. Because that zygote is not capable of suffering, as far as we know.
So you're
That is a
what
dangerous-
moral standard? Is that just your opinion? Where did you get that moral standard from?
Because suffering is a bad thing. We all know suffering is a bad thing. That's an objective fact, right?
So you do believe in objective morality.
I believe that suffering is an objectively negative.
So if you can't feel it, is it okay?
What do you mean if you
You can't feel the pain, is it okay to inflict the pain?
In the sense that if no one's suffering from it, if you have a scenario where nobody is suffering from something, then yes, of course. There's no a moral. Something is only a moral question if it affects someone's well-being.
So let me just make sure I understand this correctly.
This guy's
That
actually
if it doesn't affect their
arguing
well-being,
himself,
so
it almost seems
dementia
like now.
patients that don't know who they are or where they're from, can we execute dementia patients because they're confused about their well-being?
Why not?
Can you imagine a scenario?
Or Alzheimer's patients?
Charlie,
Alzheimer's patients don't really know much about anything. Can we schedule them for execution because they can't technically suffer?
I gotta say something. I think Charlie's onto something. I'm for calling the herd. So
That's a little dramatic for me. I'm not going to go that far.
And they suffer from dementia.
You want more of these?
No, I'm good.
And we killed them, right? It's not a scenario that involves an absence of suffering. There's still suffering involved. Imagine you grow up thinking, my dad could be killed at any moment because he's going to get dementia. Imagine living your life thinking, I could get dementia and suddenly I'd be killed by my state.
Imagine a world where you slaughter 1 million babies every year in America.
But Charlie, it's not slaughter. That's the problem.
Hold on, it's a forcible removal from the umbilical cord of another human life. Again, we have clarity but not agreement. Biologically, you know that your entire coding began at conception. Your coding, for uniqueness.
I disagree with that.
Okay, when those two cells fused together, to use your terminology, that is where the process of
Scientifically
human,
accepted terminology.
In the interest of time, can we bring this question to a
the
close?
process of human development objectively begins at that moment. Therefore, those human beings are deserving of human rights. We keep going, or do you want to?
I think yes. Yeah, you can finish.
The process of development begins from the moment the sperm is being generated in the father, the moment the eggs are being generated in the mother. To say that suddenly the moral worth switches on when they fuse doesn't make any sense. That's just a point you
It makes perfect sense, because that is when your journey as a human being, when the sperm and egg were separate, you were not yet a fused human being. You were not created uniquely.
DNA existed. DNA existed. I thought.
Well, the parts of your DNA existed. Your DNA did not exist. It's like saying that we have a full car just because we have all the parts. It was not yet put together until conception happens and the zygote was formed. Thank you. I think we have to
Can we
give
move on to the next
very
question,
much.
please?
You know about Patriot Mobile and what they stand for. I've talked to you
Oh, he
about their
edited this
commitment to
himself?
family,
Did he?
faith, and freedom.
It's on his
If you
channel, I
challenge
guess.
yet, you'll get exception.
Education institutes of the question, they are critical.
Sure.
So first of all, my first question, or my only question is, you advocated and applauded the reducing and removing of public funding for universities on the grounds they promote ideological biases. Given that universities play a critical role in driving national innovation, research and upward mobility, especially through federally funded grants, how do you reconcile this position with the broader societal value that higher education institutes offer?
Well, they can, but in Harvard's case, for example, is getting their funding pulled. They have a $50 billion endowment. Just so we are clear, in pounds, that would be like what, 42 billion, 45 billion? I mean, I'm trying to learn the conversion rate here. I mean, it's an extraordinary amount of money. They can either use their endowments to fund it, and if you have certain behavior and certain practices, then you should not get federal funding. Harvard is in direct violation of the United States Supreme Court fair admissions case, which says you cannot discriminate people based on the color of their skin. Go ahead.
But isn't the whole point of it, you can't use endowments like that. The point of it,
They can.
the point of an endowment is to manage a fund through perpetuity. Cambridge has an endowment, and that endowment allows professorships to be funded to allow for research into sciences. That's the whole point of it.
Well, you just said, hold on, you just said it funds research into sciences. That's what they should do with their monstrosity of an endowment.
Yeah, but the endowment is, you can't.
The interest alone on their endowment could fund the entire research and development budget of most Ivy League schools. They have a $50 billion endowment. Even like a podunk money manager in America can earn a 7 to 10% investment in the markets the last couple of years. That's $5 billion of returns that endowment could
None of
then
this makes sense to
reinvest
me.
in whatever they want. Instead, Harvard has become a hedge fund with a radical school attached. And I think that's very wrong for U.S. taxpayers to continue to subsidize.
But it's not just Harvard. You've called on colleges being a...
I think the ultimate point that Kirk is making in this thing, and I really don't even fully understand the original question, is that he's just saying that the government shouldn't be propping this up, especially when we see that the Ivy League universities have become propaganda machines, which is exactly what the communists told us they were going to do to our nation, by the way, that you knew that I've been griping about for 10 years. He used to make fun of me for being the old guy yelling about commies, and all of a sudden... No, it takes a little bit of noticing, and then you'll start to see what they told you they were going to do to us in the 80s. They did to us just a couple of decades later.
Yeah.
Anyways, so he's upset that they don't do anything with this money. And a point that he was making there is that a regular investor, we can go open a money market account tomorrow and go get 6 to 7% interest on this money market savings account. They're just a Joe Schmo. So these people, not only are they basically wasting this money, but they're not, like, it doesn't take much to do something positive with these funds that are sitting at these schools. And instead of doing something positive with it, not even in investing it, they're just dumping it into DEI. I think that's what they're getting at here.
Scam. You've constantly attacked higher education institutes. You've attacked liberal arts as a scam. For example, like a lot of conservatives, Peter Thiel studied philosophy at Stanford. Ronald Reagan studied sociology. A lot of them did study liberal arts, and you keep undermining these august institutions, which have provided a lot for society. Like society's backbones have been universities and higher learning institutes, and yet you keep attacking them.
Well, they used to be largely, but again, I don't want to speak too much about this country, but in America, they don't represent fundamental American values. You know, Peter Thiel, after he graduated Stanford, wrote an entire book criticizing college and then paying people not to go to college. So Peter Thiel, who spoke at this very school, and you guys had a great conversation with him, you know that he believes college is such a scam, he would pay people $100,000 a year for 20 years straight not to go to college? So not exactly a good argument in your favor. Peter Thiel, who got a philosophy degree, made billions of dollars, and has now forked over tens of millions of dollars for people not to go to U.S. universities and colleges.
Yeah, but it's not just Peter Thiel.
I know, but you mentioned him, I didn't. But this, to complete the point, is that...
Yes, Thomas went to, did liberal arts.
Look, in America, there are far too many people going to college. We need people to become welders, electricians, people that work with their hands. There is a major trade deficit problem in the United States. We have 11 million well-paying jobs that we cannot find enough labor for, and instead we have a lot of people going to university to go study North African lesbian poetry. It might sound good, but it doesn't necessarily, A, either develop the content, the character, or the development of the soul, and B, it does not necessarily also give you the skills necessary. Some college is good for you. I'm a big proponent of Hillsdale College.
Guys, please be quiet.
I believe Hillsdale College is America's greatest college, and I'm a big proponent of that. But I would ask a question. In your own words, what do you believe the purpose of college is?
So I'm coming in here to push back, and I know that this time you and I are going to be locked together on this. This is how I would push back against Charlie Kirk on this very topic. When you drop trow, lower your rear end onto liberal arts and defecate on it, your universities get taken over by people that don't share your ideologies.
Yeah.
By dismissing those things and treating them like they are not important is the very reason that the universities have become the thing that Charlie Kirk doesn't like.
Yeah.
Now, is he wrong that we need people to work with their hands and be welders and different things like that? No, not at all. As a matter of fact, I think that that's pretty cool work. I wouldn't have mind officially learning a skill like that. I can do it like a redneck, you know this, but we both got redneck skills.
I did enough welding in college, oddly enough, talking about it, doing it in college, that I would have considered that as a trade if I had to pick a trade.
Right, yeah. So he's right about that. Maybe there are too many people going to college. I don't disagree with that, but you have to be careful when you're completely destroying, lambasting the liberal arts because you gave all of that over.
Yeah.
Ayako's world of creative stuff is narrow. what she will like and watches, because I know 100% she has this problem because we do. There's not very good content.
Yeah.
It's that's why I think the manga and the anime thing is so popular.
That's why I
because
did to it.
there's the only shred of decent storytelling that still exists.
What'd she say?
Oh, interesting. My mom just scared the life out of me. I had both my earbuds in and didn't hear her. The scary part is she's a lefty. Oh. The commie sixth sense was tingling. I'm kidding. Mom is probably a very nice person.
No. See, that's what I think. I'm just going to chime in to offer this little thing too, is
of the crapping on liberal arts.
The crapping on liberal arts is annoying because that mentality is what caught it. It wasn't like this until that mentality was adopted by a side of the aisle.
Yes.
And now it's like this. And they created a self-fulfilling prophecy that they're now like, see? It's like, okay. But the other thing that I don't like is, and I've said this to you a lot, is I think that the idea that college is a scam is like not even a good way to look at college in general, because technically it is a scam now with the way that it's structured. But it wasn't always like that. And if it functions in there's a lot of stuff that I learned in college that if I would have dipped and gone into just the world immediately, I wouldn't have learned as quickly. She's chilling. I wouldn't have learned as quickly. So I did find a lot of value in college. The amount that I paid for it was ridiculous.
My point is, and I know you'll agree with this, you could just do that on your own.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the part of college when you're in it, you're kind of like, oh, it kind of stings a little. But it's cool to have that access to those professionals, the teacher, the
and then also to have people doing it with you.
Yeah.
You're not doing it by yourself, so you're learning quicker than I would have. Because I don't know, maybe you're a little different than me. I value having people doing something with me because it helps me course correct better.
I see.
And so like I'll learn something quicker if there's people doing it with me. I'm not scared to do something alone or learn something alone, but so there is that value in it too. And I don't think that college is a complete scam. I just think that we've structured it in the 20th century, 21st century. We've structured it in a way that is more about making certain people profitable than it is about educating the future. And I think that's kind of sad. John's playing the Get On With It music.
No, you don't know what that is, huh?
No, I just... Yeah.
You know what it is, don't you?
I think so. Maybe I don't.
Oh
yeah.
You said about profits.
Yeah.
They're trying to get as much money out of it as possible. It's become something that's what the price is. What makes college a scam?
Yeah.
Recently, kids go to school for stupid degrees and spend the rest of their lives in debt. Most of the things they learn, you can learn on the internet. Yeah. Yep. That's kind of my point of view from it. Now, I went to school for very technical computer stuff that I wouldn't have been able to do by myself or without their equipment.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't have had access to $30,000 routers.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And switching systems. That kind of school, in my opinion, is the most valuable and should be seen as the most valuable type of school. And the other ones can remain expensive. They can be something bougie that you go do. But I agree with you that it shouldn't necessarily maybe be leaned on so hard as bad. It feels like it's this college that is. I feel like it's the same energy. If we lean on college and say college bad, it's the same energy I get as leaning on liberal arts and saying liberal arts is bad.
I take a lot of unnecessary shots for having got an art degree.
Yeah, I get it. I do. Because I'm going to not lie to you. I am better at guitar I'm a better musician than a lot of people I knew that paid a lot of money to go to school for music and I'm just a loser that sits in his basement and shredded for fun.
Yeah.
You know, do you know what I did? I ever tell you that story?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. This is how I ended up teaching myself more advanced musical theory. I went to SIUE because you could just go on campus. Mm-hmm. I just went. and I went and looked on the internet and found out where the classical and jazz guitar players would be. And I just walked into the hallway and waited till those guys got out of class. And I walked up to those guys. I was like, hey, can you tell me about your curriculum? I was like, I play guitar, but I don't go here. But can you tell me about your curriculum? Oh, yeah, man, we do this book. We do these recording
That's
books.
hilarious.
And I went and wrote it all down. And I went and bought all the books myself. Their same curriculum, all their theory books. I probably still have them in a box down here somewhere. Yeah. All the recording. That's how I learned how to record all this stuff and do mixing and mastering. And I just went to SIUE, the local college. I'm giving away our location a little bit, huh? Yeah. She's on the internet right now sending glitter drones. Orange glitter drones is what she just, SIUE. We're tuning in. And then I just asked them their curriculum.
Yeah.
Boom. Bingo. Bango. Okay, we'll keep going.
It's critical engagement. But coming back to your point on lesbian poetry or whatever.
North African lesbian poetry.
North African lesbian poetry.
They're both.
So in the morning, I actually had a lecture on development policy, and one of the key authors on sort of development economics is Nussbaum, who talks about
Good, stay out of my business.
liberal arts sort of engages you critically. And one could argue, even North African lesbian poetry, I don't think that's a degree, I think that's just a module within a degree.
This guy's a sweetheart.
Maybe.
Yeah. that makes you...
The fact you don't know shows how rotten to the core universities have become.
You're taking one example and telling conservatives and hordes of young people that college is a scam. College isn't a scam. I mean, I took my mom down to a pub just down the road where Watson and Crick If college is a scam, then DNA wouldn't have been discovered. With cancer research.
Hold on a second. Yes, you're right. At this Pacific University, you guys split the atom. You had Sir Isaac Newton. You had some of the greatest minds of the West. I don't know about what's happening here, and I'm not going to criticize it. But at most colleges in the West, they've gone away from places of inquiry and appreciation of what is good and what is beautiful and into this incessant oppression Olympics of trying to deconstruct the core canon that is our birth certificate. I don't know if that's happening here. It's certainly...
That's not true, though.
In America, it is objectively true, okay?
That isn't true.
Okay, no, first of all, they removed Western civilization as a core course in Stanford in the 1990s. They tried to bring it back with petitions, and the university said, no, teaching Western civilization is racist. Shakespeare is not taught at major... Let me finish. Shakespeare is not taught at major universities across America because it's deemed as racist. I talked to some students earlier in the English department, and they said, hey, I'm studying Shakespeare. I said, that's refreshing because in a lot of U.S. schools...
I'm sorry I interrupted his rant, but I wanted to hit this before I forgot, before we moved on. We've already debunked one of the top comments. They said, Charlie said they don't teach Shakespeare in college. Ha ha. I learned it in high school. What he said was they don't teach it in college because it's deemed as racist.
Yeah.
So we're already catching the comment section being disingenuous to him. I had to point that out.
They don't teach
while it
Shakespeare
happened.
because he's called racist. You would be surprised at how wretched to the core some of these colleges have become in America.
If you look at the Global Innovation Index, America, which is predominantly a lot of their majors are humanities and liberal arts, they're number 2 on the Global Innovation Index. China is somewhere near 13. If you look at every metric, Fortune 1000 CEOs, 40% did humanities and liberal arts. There is a value in liberal arts, yet you're criticizing it.
And I'm going to keep on criticizing it. Also, the vast majority of liberal arts graduates do not respect freedom of speech. That is an empirical poll. They increasingly do not have reverence or gratitude for the United States of America. They don't care about the core values of the U.S. Constitution. If you want to go to college, that's fine. But in our country, 40% of kids that enter college do not graduate. The kids that do graduate, half of them end up getting jobs that do not require any sort of college degree. There are all these made-up degrees. In America, I know it's different than the experience you might be having here. Your tutoring system here is objectively great. I'm glad you guys have it. The class sizes in America are 400 to 500 students, sometimes per introductory course, to go hundreds of thousands of dollars into debt, study things that don't matter, find jobs that do not exist. And so let me just make one final point, is that, of course, some people should be going to college, but generally in the United States of America, it has become a racket of debt, it has become a burden, and a place where we're actually not putting our best and brightest into the job field itself. to be equipped for the jobs of the future. Instead, we have a lot of baristas at Starbucks with philosophy degrees.
You also
I don't
mentioned
disagree with the way that he
indoctrination.
framed that.
As per the
That's all.
Oxford Dictionary's definition of indoctrination, it means that you take a belief and you can't critically observe that belief. Turning Point USA has over 30,000 chapters, 3,000 chapters across US universities. So are you arguing that students, including conservatives, lack the critical thinking skills to sort of decide political ideologies, political beliefs, that they're so dumbfounded that they can't decide for themselves what's right and what's wrong, and that your whole premise is on the fact that students like us, we lack critical thought in deciding what is taught in schools?
Again, I'm not using Cambridge as the school that I think of, but in America.
Okay. I had to pause him. I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to interrupt Charlie just in case he was going to say something I was going to say. Did you hear what that guy just talked about? Do you want me to do the too long didn't read version?
Yeah.
Because he said something I thought that was very interesting there, and I wanted to pause and talk about, especially with our viewer listening. I think that she would appreciate this perspective. That young man, clearly from India, he might be Pakistani, I don't know, somewhere, one of those places. That nice young man mentioned that he said that, what do you think, that these kids aren't going to be able to think for themselves? Okay, he was kind of saying that, are they just being, led blind into this? And I would push back on him a little bit with that and say, yeah. And I think that that's a problem. It's not uncommon for when you are young, especially, to when you meet someone that's older that you respect. And then especially when you're in college and your professor and they kind of crack a joke and you talk to them after class maybe, and you kind of get bonded to these people a little bit. Like I started to become friends with Dave and Ron and Hammond, Mr. Hammond. I don't remember his first name. That guy was a hoot. Mr. Kirk, the German teacher in high school, I became such good friends with him. I would go over to his house. He had a drum set in his basement, and we'd play Metallica songs all day some days.
That's awesome.
Oh, his kids hated it, but I'd come over. He's like, dude, you bringing your amp over? I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'm on my way. And I'd go over to the German teacher's house, and in the basement, we'd be playing For Whom the Bell Tolls. And
I think, to be fair to this kid, too, I don't think he formulated what his point was when he was pulling up.
yes.
So Charlie Kirk has chapters of his organization in 3,000 different college campuses.
Yes.
So he's saying if you think college kids, which is an unfair framing of what Charlie's saying, I think, but he's saying if you think college kids are so stupid, then are the kids that are choosing to listen to what you have to say stupid also?
That's a good point, too.
Which I think is what he's trying to say, but I think that he's super nervous
Yeah.
because he's not really saying, seems smart, but he's not really good at communicating.
I agree. He's probably very nervous. This is probably very nerve-wracking to have a debate in Cambridge like this. So to finish off, to tie a bow on the thing that I was saying is that when you look up to this person, and it's not uncommon to look up to the older person that you see as wise and intelligent, and especially when you're young, that is not bad. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is that people know this, I think, and then they use it to manipulate these kids, and you've seen it almost try to happen to you in college yourself, where they try to steer your art to be godless.
Yeah.
Because that is when you fail as a teacher, as a leader, as a person that a young person looks up to, in my eyes. But I don't think that they fail unintentionally. I think church leadership unintentionally does that to a person more often than I think a university unintentionally does that to a person. I believe the university does it more on purpose. Whereas at church, you might meet a guy like the cool guitar player that used to play for a while before he left.
You?
Yeah, me. No, Carr.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, he was a cool guy, but I'm not saying him in particular, but a guy like him might be really passionate and have a point that wasn't really necessarily something that was meant to stick.
Yeah.
But he's real passionate about it. And I don't think he would purposely mislead you to influence you in the youth, because we worked with him in the youth.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. A church, you're more likely, I think, for that to happen. But at a college, I think that they know that you're malleable, you're young, you look up to them and you respect them. And then they do that stuff to you on purpose.
Yeah.
Leading you. So I don't like that. If I was Kirk, I would have pointed that out and had a little sidebar with him over that.
I think she's trying to push him to quit,
that go to
too.
these massive state schools that have humanities departments that are not reading the great books, that do not have a tutoring system, that are unfortunately laced with the most anti-Western thought imaginable. I don't really like following what one thing has to do with the other, why 3,000 chapters has something to do with your indictment. Maybe you can clarify, but I think we're out of time.
You can clarify, but they don't want to follow.
In general, colleges should be a place that lift you up to what is good, true, and beautiful. To study the great things that have been, to develop your soul and develop your character. Character in Greek literally means like tattoo, to etch within you. Far too often colleges create ungrateful, pessimistic, and nihilistic revolutionaries that want to tear down what was before and instead have no alternative to build a future, and the West is suffering because of it. Thank you very much.
I actually like that. I like that. I'm with Charlie on that one. That was a nice little...
Yeah, he shook his hand. That was a gentleman.
That was a nice little pepperoni there.
I can understand the first rule and a little nervous. There's a very real chance I could wake up tomorrow, front page of YouTube. Charlie Kirk owns man bun idiot with facts and logic. So
Destroys.
destroyed. Okay, so my question is, I agree that stable monogamous relationships often produce the best outcomes for society, but if that structure really works for everyone, why do we consistently see societies, once they become safer and more prosperous, move away from traditional monogamy? And why do so many marriages still end in divorce, even among people who generally try to make it work? And just one final framing there. If you believe in free markets because they are decentralized and they adapt to reality without top-down control, and given the individual ability to form healthy long-term pair bonds very significantly with factors like genetics and ecologically calibrated attachment styles, why do you reject top-down control in economics, but not extend that same rejection to human behavior in terms of marriage?
Okay, so
Boy, that's a tough question,
the second
dude.
law of thermodynamics answers this question, is that it's the law of decay. Societies tend to decay against the roots that created them. For example, as a side note, here in this country, you guys invented the idea of free speech. You brought it to the world. You guys do not have free speech in this country anymore. 30 people a day are arrested in the UK for inflammatory social media posts.
Don't like the start of this
Someone by
one.
the name of Lucy Connolly is currently facing prison time for a Facebook post that was critical of migrants. It is normal, unfortunately, for civilizations to get away from how they once operated and how they once were. Now, to your question, does that answer the first part of your question? You were saying, why do they get away from monogamy? I want to make sure I answer your question.
I would say I don't feel that that's a full answer.
Okay, so
I agree.
You're asking why do they get away from what works? Is that correct?
No.
Yes, well, why do societies make this change once they become more prosperous?
Oh yeah, okay. I mean, because prosperity leads to degeneracy, for sure. That would be the answer. And so once you are prosperous, you tend to no longer have the moral guardrails or the limitations. Let's just say, you no longer have delayed gratification because you have instant gratification. Because you
I don't
have
like
surplus of goods, and then you have decline.
I've got so much to say.
The second part of the question, can you remind me, please, what the second question was? About markets?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, for example, you have to, I believe in intervention in markets if there is something that is improper morally. So for example, I do not believe that you should be able to scam your neighbor or have misleading advertising, because I believe in a transcendent moral standard, and the same goes for my personal views.
But you can't govern according to that.
So I think we lost.
I got to talk because it's bothering me. That I had to give Kirk the end of that other one. The beginning of this one was odd. And I don't think that he addressed this, guys. And I do not believe in the concept that prosperity leads to degeneracy.
I don't disagree
it makes,
with it, but I don't think that it's universal and always that. You know what I mean? It can.
I think that it makes it easier.
Yeah.
Much like the internet. People go, oh, the internet ruined humans.
Yeah.
Okay, I can give you some of that. But also, we used to feed Christians to lions in a coliseum that you could take your children to go see. It's just that the internet lets you see more of that energy.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little more, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
right? But I mean, they used to kill people in the street in public, and little boys would go run down and check it out. Oh, you want to go see the hanging?
Yeah.
So when we're talking about, the moral decay of things solely based off of prosperity, or that prosperity leads directly to that, buddy, I can't jive on that.
Yeah.
I can't jive on that at all.
That's why I think it's not. I don't know if that I would consider that universally like. Yes, that happens.
It can
happen, but that doesn't always happen, and it's not guaranteed to happen.
No.
I feel like that was a weird statement. I also feel like this kid's question was complex.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, he's a man, but.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But it like his question was really complex, and Kirk started off his argument in a real rabbit trail that I don't feel like had anything to do.
That's what I'm saying. Like that was an odd start to that. I'll tell you why I think, and you know this, and I feel like I've got a lot to say about this without saying a lot right now. But I've got a lot to say about the decaying of these relationships, and it goes back to what I was ranting about last stream when Ayako was listening to us. He said, the more I learn, the more I kind of like you guys. One of those rants I went on was dealing with the toxicity and toxic traits of people. I think that we're at a point with the condition of modern relationships. We can no longer allow ourselves to be subjected to and put up with these extremely toxic behavior patterns and say that your family. That is outright abuse. It is evil and it is horrible. And the reason people's marriages don't work anymore is that I've noticed that both people tend to be sold out to the thinking of their family and their patterns, and they don't even seem to want to follow, and even Christian families. And honestly, from my perspective, especially Christian families, don't take it seriously when the man and woman are joined and they are supposed to go be their own thing. They're supposed to go be their own unit and then report back to home base. But a lot of times you'll see some people, they can't let go of their family.
Yeah.
And they can't let themselves be completely a part of this other person making a new life. And a lot of times that brings these toxic traits that you're not allowed to talk about. Oh, that's going to make Uncle Bob upset. Oh, that's going to make Dad upset. Oh, that's going to make Grandma upset. Good. It's toxic. It's evil. It makes me not want to be around you.
Yeah.
And if we aren't allowed to talk about it and fix it, then I don't want to be a part of your family.
Yeah.
So that's why I think things are falling apart. And I don't think it has anything from my perspective to do with prosperity. I think that it's an insult to how prosperous we are that we don't now take what we do to people emotionally and psychologically seriously. And you can't abuse me and then say, but I'm your dad.
Yeah.
And then expect me, and I'm not even talking about physical abuse. You can't abuse me and lord over me these weird conditions to get your affection.
Yeah.
So that you'll pay attention to me.
Yeah. To be fair, to add this before we start playing again too, to be fair a little bit to Kirk, I'm wondering if his argument when he said that is based off of how Plato talks about how like in a society that's growing. So like if you need to farm and you need to work to succeed, it's more beneficial to have a big family to help you work your farm, whatever. So you're trying to have that kind of a relationship so that you can have children and procreate. Once you don't need to work as hard, once that grows and you don't need to work as hard to do that and create that in society, that action becomes easier with less survival consequences to use strictly as a pleasurable sort of pastime. And so there's certain acts of that between a man and a woman, and then also a man and a man that is just purely recreational in value, and that you only can act in those ways in a society where you aren't going to suffer because you didn't choose. You know, like you remember Plato talking about all that.
Oh
Okay. Yeah. I think that's where he might have drew that thread, but I don't think he used it properly.
Yeah, and I see that, and I also see that as a potential to have the family. Could you imagine how horrible family structures were, and then you had to have those people in that way?
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. So she says, my poor dad has to deal with my mom's craziness. I like my mom, but gosh dang, she's tough to deal with sometimes. I'm sorry to hear that. That's a tough thing. And yeah, it's life's hard. You have to. I took it for granted, man, how much my mom sat and talked to me about the way that I make people feel. And how to make someone feel safe and how to make someone feel like they're heard. And I thought that was common, and it's not. And a lot of times, yeah, it gets you kind of stuck and trapped, and it gets messy. And it's the thing that makes me have mercy on someone that can be difficult is that healing hurts. When you break a bone, it hurts real bad before it gets better.
Yeah.
The problem is if a person realizes that they have a wound that needs to be nurtured, and then they further lash out at you for trying to help them. That's rough.
Yeah.
But that's a concept I think I wrote about it very sloppily in our book, and if I could go back and change something after reading it again for now probably 9 times. I was like, man, I could have said that a lot better. I'm not going to change anything else. I'm done with it. Whereas you have to accept that pain in the regards of change. They're growing pains. It hurts. And it doesn't stop. I think adults think they get to a certain point and this is it. And it's like, no, man, you know, you can't be stagnant in your development, even as a middle-aged person. You got to keep trying. You got to keep trying for the sake of the people around you to be better.
Yeah.
For their sake.
Agree in the foundation. I like to propose.
It's not for yours.
I like to think about. So, firstly, I absolutely acknowledge that again, if everyone in society was able to maintain healthy long-term hair bonds, that would be best. Again, there's strong data showing that independent of socioeconomic factors, broken homes are some of the strongest predictors of poor life outcomes.
We totally agree.
Yes. And even, I'm not sure if many people here are aware of this, but if you track, as countries become more socially egalitarian, somewhat surprisingly, rates of female depression and anxiety also spike disproportionately. So I think one of the problems here is that when you try and impose moral absolutism, inevitably, again, due to variance in attachment issues, due to industrialized culture, absent parents, screens, raising kids, around 50% of adults in the West develop attachment disorders, which make it very difficult to maintain long-term pair bonds. And then additionally, you have things like variation in oxytocin receptors, density, and shape, also vasopressin. There are going to be, even if there's 5% of people who feel that these rules really do not fit them, they will push back. And this will create ideologies that then grow into more wider appealing ideologies, which then leads to the strict. I think this is what happened in the sexual revolution. It started with a push for female autonomy, and then it was almost morphed into a really exaggerated expression of pushing for maximizing individual freedom. And I think that when you try and impose moral absolutism this way, it just inevitably causes pushback. And I think if you were to, as someone with a platform, instead say, hey, monogamy is great, it works best for most people, but I also understand there are some people it doesn't work so well for, more people would hear the message that you want to push.
Okay, thank you for that. That's an interesting. I've actually never gotten that question before. It's very thoughtful. Would you say you're against moral absolutism then?
Yes, I would.
Are you against that absolutely?
No, I'm very open to having my mind changed. And
so it's not an absolute thing.
Well, I'm against moral absolutism.
Are you against moral absolutism? Absolutely.
No.
Okay, so then you're consistent. So
I think
all just kind of. I think it's preference, not. It's about preference. You can basically do whatever you prefer. There is no transition.
That's something that he does that kind of gets at me is like he has canned arguments. Like that's a canned gotcha line.
The t-shirt cannon loaded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the kid didn't exactly fall in line with it. And so he doesn't actually know how to tie that to the proper point, because he could still make the exact same point
Yes.
with that question that he wanted to make, because it's still there logically, but because he's relying on that gotcha line to be followed to the T in order to get him, he doesn't know how to get him there. And I don't like that. I don't like, he's not the only perpetrator of that. A lot of guys that do these debates and stuff like that, and a lot of the people that are going to talk to him in this, I know because of the clips I've seen, try that same kind of thing. And it frustrates me, because it shows that people aren't actually listening, and people maybe don't even actually know what they're saying.
And to actually say the word actually again, to support the man bun as a fellow man bunner, a little bit.
Yeah.
I honestly saw something here from the moral subjective standpoint in this that I got to give him some credit. I see why he said I'm not absolute on this, because he's willing to be exposed to new information that can change.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what kind of flipped Kirk's argument on its head, was because Kirk took a moral stance on that, and this guy took a more intellectual stance. Well, he's like, well, I'm not making a moral absolutist statement here. I'm actually making a statement based off of what I currently have knowledge base as. Which, frankly, if I'm splitting hairs, is about what Charlie has to do also.
Yeah.
You know? You're just going off what you know. So that, he did kind of get him in a gotcha on that.
Yeah.
In a soft way.
Just by the way, too, the whole time I'm watching this, that little, like, fiery redheaded guy in the bottom left.
Oh, yeah.
He's one that I keep getting clips for, where he asks he's one that asks the really loaded question that Kirk just says no to. And he's not listened to anything that they've been talking about. He's been constantly on his phone looking at his own notes. So, like, he's just ready to argue. And I've just been watching that kind of.
He can't wait.
Yeah, observing, waiting.
That boy frothing at the mouth, dog.
He's loading up.
Well, I think what you're doing there is slightly unfairly putting me into a loop, because I'm very open to having my mind changed.
No, that's what I'm saying, though, is that by definitionally, and this is something that will keep on coming back, you must choose what moral standard we live by. I'm very clear as to what moral standard. The lie of the West, of modernity, the last 30 years, is that we're going to let you live and let live, and there will be no moral standard. That itself is a moral standard, and it's a really bad one. And to your point, that yes, it creates more suffering and creates more despair. And no, I disagree with what you say, and I respect the heart of what you're saying. I will say that I have a moral obligation not to accommodate when people fall short, but instead try to lift them up towards the standard that is true and that I know that works.
So where I'd push this is I'd ask you, you describe people falling short when they fail to engage in long-term monogamy. What do you think causes that? Why do you think some people struggle?
Many reasons. Economic is one of them, but the biggest is the death of religion and the death of Christianity in the West. As America, let's talk about America. The UK is unfortunately far less churched than America, but as America has become less churched, so many of these social ills rise.
So one thing I'd say, I studied the evolution of behavior, in particular sexual romantic behavior. If you track all the different hunter-gatherer cultures that we can study, and we track how agriculture shapes things, you see that ecological conditions really reliably predict the prevalence of monogamy, certain marriage systems. And what I think is what we refer to as attachment issues. They seem to be an ecological calibration to an environment. In environments that are more unstable, it's less optimal for an individual to grow up with a tendency to rely on long-term behaviors.
FYI,
and I think there's
the attachment issues that he's talking about is another one of those ridiculously overinflated psychological things. Is most people have a ability to have a healthy attachment style. They just have little micro flaws that are preventing them from following through with it. And there are a very, very minute amount of people in the population that have the anxious attachment style or the avoidant attachment style. And it's like pretty much irreversible because of severe childhood trauma. And because everybody now thinks that if their parents raise their voice at them when they're kids, that it's childhood trauma, that they're overdiagnosing attachment style disorders.
Then I was raised in a World War I trench.
Yeah, but so you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like how we talk about like a lot of the other psychological things.
Narc
that are,
is a real thing, but it's overused.
exactly. He keeps bringing up attachment styles and said that over 50% of people, over 50% of people have attachment issues, and that's one of those numbers that popular psychology throws out there. That if you actually, because I dug into it a while ago, and it's one of those deals where it's like this is overinflated as a problem.
Gotcha.
Mismatch of the modern world, again, coming back to industrialization. There are so many people who raise kids, as absent parents. Daycare is massively linked to attachment issues. This then causes people to struggle to bond long term. And then again, coming back to the genetic part, there's again real research showing that especially vasopressin mutations and oxytocin mutations, some people really just do not have the proclivity to this.
What brings stability? Because you say stability is a good thing. And what brings stability?
So first of all, I would say we had what you might consider stability in the previous century, and then it became unstable. And then things like, I'm saying because moral absolutism was imposed.
Moral absolutism was lost. You see, modernity rose. We started to teach our kids moral relativism, and we got rid of moral absolutes. So it's the opposite.
So why was it lost? Was it lost because people stopped pushing people down?
Why was it lost? That's a question for far smarter minds. I can only tell you that it was.
Okay, I'll answer. I can tell you exactly what happened, because the West and the church failed to adequately raise up, cultivate their concepts in any other way than having blind and a lot of times destructive authoritarianism that gets you nowhere. Love cannot exist where an authoritarianism exists. The main tenet of the Bible is to love people. This doesn't mean be a pushover and weak and have no boundaries. But the church that he's talking about, that day and age of those church, they would do something like burn Joan of Arc alive in the town square. Mm-hmm. When he's talking about defending the thing that held the absolutism that held together the West, it was held together by the same iron fist that another nation would do it with.
It was held together like Lenny on a bunny.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and you have to be careful about the way you make people feel. To go back to that point Ayako brought up, is that Christians, it's a tough road because you want to be able to help people and tell people the right thing, but you can't crush them, you can't hurt them, you can't wound them, or you can push them away forever. And what the church in the West did, the thing that Charlie's defending, I can tell you exactly why it failed. Because it was unwavering absolutism and authoritarianism that left no room for compassion. And so when you have a bunch of people that are telling you, this is the religion of compassion and these are the morals of compassion, and then they enforce it by having no compassion, everybody goes, you're full of get out of there, and we want nothing to do with it. They drove them away.
Yeah. That's kind of like with what Charlie's talking about now. That's kind of like when I keep bringing up, like, I agree with what he's saying, but like I feel like he's being a little hostile. Like that's what I feel like,
That's why I quit following him.
No, but that's a microcosm of what you're talking about. What the church did is they had the belief that it's like, okay, well, I know what he's saying and I know what the church beliefs are, and I agree with them.
Yes.
But the way that you're presenting it is kind of offensive.
I would want to ask Charlie Kirk, is this how you want to represent yourself? Because this is how you're coming across to the room. Is that how you want to represent yourself? And then he would probably say something snarky to me back. Yeah. And that is how he wants to represent himself clearly.
Yeah.
My point is that you're a clanging cymbal.
Yeah.
I sense no love coming from him often in his rebuttals. Yeah. And so you sound like a guy clashing cymbals together, which is why I unfollowed you a long time ago. Because I didn't want to hear this anymore.
Exactly. Yeah. You know what's really interesting too is he's almost everyone he's talked to, he's almost done the same trajectory of demeanor. Is he starts out as hostile as he gets the whole time.
Yes.
And then he comes down a little bit towards the end, and then he spikes up right at the end.
What I also don't like about that is that's consistent with a very specific emotional abuse pattern. Now, I'm not charging him for that.
Yeah.
But the reason it triggers me and why I sound a little bit upset sometimes when I analyze Charlie Kirk, God rest his soul, he's still my brother in Jesus.
Yeah.
And I think that if he was alive, he would gladly have a debate with us, and he would encourage us to critique this, which is why I feel fine doing it now and on the internet, because we're not being disrespectful to him. Because there's one thing for sure that I can tell you is that what happened to him was not deserved, no matter what kind of critique a debate two dudes in the Midwest watching this debate could ever say about the poor guy. But this is, again, that pattern triggers me, because that is the same. You have this hostility, absolutist mindset, then you bring it down. It's like you're luring the person back in to ramp them back up for the overcritical demeanor to kick back in. And I'm getting tired of that mindset being so normal and seen as something that's positive for furthering the viewpoint that I think should win. Because it is not effective. Only thing that he's doing is making Charlie Kirk fans happy. People that already agree with him.
America, it's honestly one of the worst decisions, not just worst ideas ever.
You don't have to pause it, but which is in effect what the other side is doing to him too. They're
100%, 157%.
Acted as if every woman who's in a monogamous marriage in the States is in some sort of tyrannical environment, and has led to the women of the West being the most miserable, most depressed, most suicidal, most prescription drug addicted cohort on the planet. And I think we need to appropriately challenge feminism and tell young women that it's okay, in fact, it's courageous to get married and have children again. I think we solve a lot of our problems.
I do agree with that.
Yeah, I do too.
Yay.
I'm a feminist.
She got a U.S. shirt on.
My question is about the role of women, though. What should women's role in public and private life look like, and what are material benefits of that?
I like this question.
Thank you for that. Can I take it? I don't even want to take this detour, but can we both agree on what a woman is?
Yes. An adult human female is a biological state of being that is also socially experienced. Can I please elucidate just one example of that social experience?
Yeah, I was going to answer your question. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. So let's say you're a member of a tribe, and in that tribe you have the biological female anatomy, and in order to become a woman in that tribe, you have to also get a tattoo. That's a social experience that's mapped onto biological reality.
So can a woman have a prostate?
Can a woman have a prostate? Biologically speaking, a woman is an adult human female that has a biological reality, but it's also social experience, right? So I don't...
Yeah, it's super easy, like, can a woman have a prostate?
So as per my definition of woman, I would say that people who have a prostate are biologically male, but they can sometimes be socially treated as women.
Okay, got it. So women can have prostates. Okay. So you're a feminist that actually isn't just fighting for women, you're also fighting for men.
So, yes, men also experience harms from patriarchy, but I argue...
We're talking about the same feminism, though, just make sure. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So, men also experience harms from patriarchal domination, but I would argue that those harms come from that system of domination itself. In the same way, for example, this isn't a threat, but if I reached across and punched you in the face, then my hand might hurt. Right? So, are we understanding that there are, patterns of power? So, I would also fight for the rights of men as a feminist, just as I would fight for the rights of women.
Sure. Do you think women are happier than they were 40 years ago?
I don't like this anymore.
I think
I'm going to answer her question if he doesn't.
Satisfaction today, because not because they have more rights or because of feminism, but because they're under dual pressure to both excel professionally and also because of the domestic labour in homes that is structured around outdated expectations. So, for example, studies like the OECD's Better Life
Not that exact thing, but I agree with what she just was trying to establish.
Professional achievements have risen in countries with higher gender inequality. So I would argue that what you're calling unhappiness is actually visibility, because now we hear women expressing dissatisfaction, whereas in the 50s we prescribed them Valium and really lost it.
Okay, but now you're prescribing them other things.
And convincing themselves to lobotomize themselves, essentially.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to go the direction that they want. I'm going to clarify something, though. I do kind of agree with her. I think the best thing for women now, with the amount of freedom that they have more so than ever, is I think that you have to get them to a point to where she doesn't need the man that she picks, if he's emotionally mature enough, which Godspeed. I'm starting to learn that that's also difficult by the female content. I have purposely been watching more of that. Idealistically, what I would do was create an environment for the young woman to feel like she didn't have the pressure to be something other than who she is.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always look good. It doesn't always feel good. It isn't always easy, but you don't have to be the perfect wife. You don't have to be the perfect mom. You don't have to be the perfect sister. You don't have to be the perfect coworker. You don't have to be the perfect homemaker. You don't have to be the perfect anything when you're near me. I just want to help you be today and tomorrow the thing that you want to be.
Yeah.
And I think that would help a whole lot of young women relax, get all of those pressures off of you, because she's not wrong. I see it and hear it and experience it and feel it. I have to be this at work. Then I have to come home and be this. And then I have to be this to the... And she's not wrong.
Yeah.
And it's real hard. I used to be this guy, okay? Suck it up. You know, yada, yada. No, you got to have a different perspective, because now if I take that mentality of suck it up, buttercup, this is what you wanted, da, 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 guess what role I have assumed? The same exact thing that I just railed Charlie Kirk on doing with Western absolutism.
Yeah.
I would take that paradigm and apply it to the way that I would analyze this woman's life and mine.
Yeah.
And that is unjust. And I would have to do something that made it backed by love and not the clanging of cymbals.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very difficult to do, though, when you have a highlighted, blonde-haired, supercharged feminist.
Yeah, I was just say
huffing and puffing in your face. Do you need a piece of gum?
Yeah. When people talk to me like this, it doesn't matter what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm usually a pretty chill person, but when people talk to me like she's talking to me, I'm immediately like, dude, you got to slow down and talk to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hypercharged, unboxed.
That's really rich. I didn't know women not to complain 50 years ago. That's funny. So, no, hold on a second. Why are suicide rates going up more for women?
I think that
Complaining materially, women are killing themselves. Why is that?
Everyone is.
I think that even if both men and women have become unhappier, men's suicide rates have risen as well, and that's also been exponential. Can you at least concede that feminism offers only one potential explanation? There could be also other explanations.
Of course, obviously, but feminism is the glaring thing in front of us, where we have fertility rates down, we have marriage rates down, we have unhappiness up. And we did something in the 1960s out of the universities of Betty Friedan and Gloria Steinem and all these feminists that basically said, you're trapped in a home, go get a job, freeze your eggs, take birth control. And all of a sudden, women are way unhappier than they were 40 years ago. And I just have to ask the question, why is that? Is it working? And maybe there are biological differences between men and women that we should respect. And that deep down, a lot of women want to get married and have children. In fact, we should applaud it and we should support it.
I agree with what he's saying.
It means nothing if you're going to go be a CEO of some shoe company or be some banker in London. What matters is if you raise children and you have something to pass down long after you're gone.
I think I would bring 2 points to that. The first one is just really simple, which is that you can ascribe liberalism all you want as the cause of the unhappiness. I would argue something else. I would say that it's certain economic policy that has very little to do with the social acceptance of alternative lifestyles. I would say that we can recognize that income inequality across a vast swathe of Western countries is increasing, causes all kinds of social ills, a lack of social cohesion, housing price growth doesn't correspond with wage growth, monopolies increasingly become kind of emboldened to interfere with politics, and monopolies don't prioritize social health either. I think that those offer more compelling reasons for a decline in happiness than an increase in freedom, because just one more thing, on an intuitive basis, generally speaking, people want more freedom, not less.
Okay, so if that's true, why is it, do you agree that the happiest women of the West are married with kids?
I would have to look into it, but I think there are certain
and objectively, we know that, right? The women with kids are not the ones tearing down statues, right? They're the ones that actually have obligations.
Tearing down statues correspond to some kind of smiles per capita data set that I wasn't aware of.
Again, it's a little bit of a online.
She's quick,
and the grateful,
but
the happy and the grateful usually don't go burn down Wendy's in their spare time, which we saw in our country all throughout a single summer. But as a side note, you would agree, objectively, study after study, survey after survey, that the women of the West that are married and have children, especially a lot of children, are far happier than even the ones that earn more money correlated at the same age.
So I also don't think that happiness is a very good metric, and neither do you, because you think gay people shouldn't just pursue happiness by being gay. They have other moralistic considerations to be making. So I don't think smiles per capita is a particularly convincing...
she just negated everything that she just argued for, because all of her argument was built on happiness. And then now all of a sudden, because he's got her on happiness doesn't matter.
Little switcheroo just took place.
Yeah.
To measure whether or not we should encourage women to be autonomous, I think we should maximise agency within a fair system that has reasonable parameters. It's expedient, it's good for the economy, it's logical, it's the moral thing, because if we can't prove the material harms, we shouldn't discourage it. And also, self-reported studies is a really flawed way to do psychology.
Bro, I didn't even catch any of that sentence. How does she even breathe in her? I think she breathes through other openings.
So she's
There's
actually
some skill that's learned.
She's using the trumpet technique where you inhale through your nose as you're exhaling through your mouth. So she's always breathing.
Yes.
It's the week before my university exams right now, and I'm standing here explaining the basic methodology of kind of survey collection in sociology, which you don't really think is a real subject, to Charlie Kirk. If I took one of those surveys right now, I'd check extremely miserable. But so would a Palestinian child who's been taunted to misery. How are we going to measure
extremely miserable?
No, I'm kind of making a joke.
No, I mean, but
I echoes laughing.
But hold on. I mean, like, that's an important point, though, is that the women in the West have it the best in the world. And yet they're way unhappier than women in sub-Saharan Africa. There's something fundamentally wrong here. Because the women in sub-Saharan Africa...
That's a pretty decent point.
He's got her there.
That's a pretty decent point.
And they have good jobs. And the women in sub-Saharan Africa, they have a belief in the divine and they have kids. And maybe there's a biological undercurrent that is keeping a lot of women from realizing their full potential. And so without reading your phone and just like, connecting...
I'm not really reading my phone.
Well,
you've been reading your phone the whole time.
Fair enough. Would you agree that it's a good thing that more women get married and have children in the West?
I would ask you, would you say that a sub-Saharan African woman who's experienced female genital mutilation and checked extremely happy in a survey, and I also would check extremely happy in a survey, who do you think would be objectively more happy, even if they both checked the same answer?
No, okay, so I fully want to talk about how Islam mistreats women. We could talk all day later. Like, I'm all for that.
Me too.
Okay, good. So we agree. We actually agree. And we should shut off Muslim immigration to the UK, right? We totally agree.
I think that all religious fundamentalism is bad. If you take that logic, we should also not allow evangelical Christians.
Well, okay, hold on a second.
I agree with that also.
Can you show me with your example, because I have 50, of a single Christian country that you would say mistreats women right now?
America.
Oh, really?
Yes.
We had a female woman vice president. We had a female vice president, a female speaker of the House. Women earn more than men in America.
In Rwanda, female representation in government supersedes the UK by quite a lot. Did women get treated better in Rwanda?
Okay, I might be super off this. Like, is Rwanda Islamic? Like, I'm not totally sure. I don't think it is. Like, is it? Like, I don't know, actually. I don't know. It's not. So, again, we were talking about Islam as a little bit of a side note, but you must be morally clear, because you brought up female genital mutilation, which is a teaching of the Islamic faith. But as a side note, like, again, this is very important.
I mean, he's kind of cooking her on this last leg of this.
Do anything or not? I'm making a simple observation, which is objectively true regardless. The women of the West are miserable, and they're miserable for a reason. Because we've told them to suppress how they are made by God and pursue something else and get a bunch of trinkets and get a bunch of promotions, and they end up at 38 years old with a big flat in London, and they're miserable. And we should tell them to stop freezing their eggs and start finding their partner earlier and have lots of babies.
Yeah, okay, I think I'll bring two just final points to this. First one is just really intuitive, right, which is that if you actually care about women's happiness, then the solution is to structurally support them. That means universal childcare, shared legally enforceable parental leave, and in Nordic countries where women have high workforce participation and also some state support, they report higher life satisfaction than in more conservative countries, including America. So if your metric is happiness, so our satisfaction is never the issue. I'm not because you told me
Do you acknowledge satisfaction surveys or not? You just told me that they're BS. Do you think they're objective? Do we use that as data?
I don't think that
Yes or no?
the only sole data set, but it isn't that
You told me they're so flawed and you self-report.
You got her.
Okay, by the macro self-satisfaction data, I am correct. And you are right. When you have paid family leave, you are happier. I'm actually a proponent of that. At Turning Point USA, we pay for 6 months when somebody has a child. I think there's a lot of agreement we can have on that. We need to encourage having more children. I think the Hungarian child policy is phenomenal. We should look at that, because the greatest thing that is plaguing the West is we're not having enough kids. And it's not just bad because we won't have a future, it's also bad because the present is awfully miserable for too many women as well.
Okay, Okay, in which case I think we get. Do I
Start bringing this to a close, please.
Okay, I think just one final thing, which is in which case we get to a really interesting argument about what parts of womanhood can be demarcated to the social and what kinds of womanhood can be demarcated to biological. So, for example, my anatomy is demarcated to the biological, but the fact that I might potentially be a better nurturer than a man, I would demarcate that to the social. You might demarcate that to the biological. In which case we have differing moral scales of value. I would ask why we should necessarily prioritize your moral scale of value, which prioritizes things like birth rate, when in actual fact there are various other moral scales of value. If you yourself are a free market American, why is it the case that you would not, like the previous speaker noted, extend personal freedom towards all spheres, including a private
Because I believe in absolute truth claims, and it's absolutely wrong and bad when a society stops having kids to replace their own population, and then you have to import the third world and you become the third world. It's bad.
I disagree, but thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have something that I would like to add to that. Didn't really end too well, but he did good in the middle there.
Yeah,
and then at the end that was an odd little twist, but he did better than her in that. But the thing I wanted to add to this, and I accidentally lost my train of thought, because what was she saying there about happiness? Oh, I remember what I wanted to say. I think part of the problem here is that he has been defending absolutism, and I was mentioning how that can be a failure when it's because it's so rigid in the way you enforce it. She had her own set of things that she brought up there that was like, what are you going to do about all these metrics? She's searching for her own absolutist checklist to succeed. And the problem is that what we've seen is that that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Do you know what would solve this? For her especially, but also for Kirk's point of view, but for the woman's, and I would say this very confidently about a liberal woman or a Christian conservative woman, young or old, what would help the woman feel better is to have the sense of being genuinely loved, heard, and supported. And a lot of what she would be dealing with or has brought up would go away. You don't do it through the rigid moral absolutist way that we've seen in the past, because we already went over why that failed. I cannot force this woman to love me or to let me love her.
Mm-hmm.
That is the main thing. That a good man has to find this woman that is going to give pause when he's trying to love her, which doesn't always look like a hug and a gift.
Yeah.
But that would solve 90% of what she brought up.
Yeah. And even if she doesn't acknowledge it, there's a way to communicate with her in this moment too that could get to that point.
Yes.
First of all, she was talking way too fast. She was obviously very overly emotionally charged with everything she was saying, and she had a lot to say. And we pointed it out in real time that she immediately emotionally moved the goalposts.
Twice, I think.
Yeah. And if you see someone doing that, I think it's your obligation, if you genuinely are trying to share truth with somebody, that you calmly start asking them, which I get that they're timed in this format too.
Yeah.
And I know that would be a pushback from a debate bro, would be, well, you're timed. You don't really have time to do that. It's like, okay, I don't care though, because I'm not going to stomp on her just because I didn't have time to be careful and ask her questions.
That's why I kind of quit watching debates. I'm not here to win a debate.
Yeah, same.
I want to make sure that she feels heard, even if I disagree.
Yeah, and you know too that she's going to lash out at you and take shots at you. But you have to know that, and you have to, if you're committed to helping that person, or at least sharing something with that person, you have to be committed to just eating those.
Yes.
Not if she goes too far, obviously you can be like, hey, but also eating those and staying focused on the, direction that you are heading.
Yes.
And I think that That's why I don't like debates a whole lot, is because it doesn't nurture that format.
Especially when you're debating about women.
Yeah.
Or with a woman.
Yeah.
Mr. Kirk, you have spoken to Donald Trump. Is this
This is the guy, I think. Oh, no, it's not.
You've spoken to Donald Trump and have been quite vocal about this.
Supportive of Donald Trump. Yes, sir.
One of his main domestic policy agendas has been trying to cut drain the swamp, get rid of the grift, ensure that we have a more functioning, more efficient federal budget.
I think for debates, you have a low chance of winning, but I think the goal is to just put the idea in their head. I like that. That's kind of what all three of us, I think, are aligned on that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah, you have a low chance of winning, so you just put the idea in their head. Exactly. And if you did it in a way that was gentle enough, but you weren't a coward, I promise you that person's going to think about that for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And that is the way that you win the person, and you win the heart.
According to Financial Times yesterday, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, among others, have cut roughly $37 billion from the federal government budget. This is a contested figure, of course. Some of these have already been paid out, etc. It's likely low, but they've assumed about $37 billion.
Can I say something real American real quick?
Sure.
How do all these British kids know so much about American politics?
Because we're number one, baby.
That's what I'm saying, though, is like, at the end of the day, like, yes, I know what he's talking about.
Yes.
I have zero idea what's going
a Tory,
on.
Bro? What's a Tory, bro? I don't know what it is. I hear you guys talking about the Tories all the time. I don't know what a Tory is, bro. But you sure do know about Donald Trump, don't you? Your country is so insignificant to me that I don't have to know anything about it. If I wanted to get petty.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, though, is like, there's that meme
if you want to be a jerk about pointing out how terrible my politics are,
yeah,
I'll be petty back if I want to and say, your country's so insignificant, I don't got to know about your parliament system, big boy.
Exactly. It's like that meme where it's that Mad Men meme where they're on the elevator and the guy's like, every night I sit there and I think about how miserable your life must be and I feel sorry for you. And he just looks back at the guy and goes, I don't think about you at all.
Yeah.
Engaged in and tried to push tax cuts to the ultra-wealthy that would amount to several $100 billion in terms of tax breaks.
Let them keep their money. I don't care.
Along with this, he has cut money-making institutions such as the Department like Natural Reserves, kind of thing that bring in about $40 billion, cost about $5 billion, and the IRS, which brings in a huge amount of money relative to the amount of money it spends. With all this in mind, is it not fair to say Donald Trump has engaged in a smash and grab for the ultra-rich, for the billionaires that stock his cabinet, for all these people against the modern Americans that you claim to represent?
Okay, how much do you know about his suggested tax plan?
Pardon?
His suggested tax plan?
Some. I wouldn't say I am well.
He has suggested to raise taxes on the wealthy 37% to 40%.
What about federal
income tax?
Capital gains.
He's the first. Capital gains will stay where it is, but he's the first Republican president that we have since George H.W. Bush that's recommending to raise taxes on the ultra wealthy. Number two, a lot of those cuts, I wish would be even more than $37 billion, have not yet been full realized. In America, again, I don't know how applicable this will be, but people watching online. He's advocating for no tax on tips. So when you get tipped, we have a big tipping culture in America. He's advocating for no tax.
I can understand where you're coming from here, Charlie. I can see where it's popular on the face of it. Donald Trump and Republicans.
Well, you just stomp all over
the federal budget is something we should be very considered about. And the debt, and the cost of maintenance on that debt. Even if we don't regard any sense of tax increases or tax reduced on the ultra-wealthy, the fact that he is engaging in and defunding money-making institutions such as the IRS exacerbates and increases the problem of debt dependency the United States has.
Whoa. I very strongly, fundamentally disagree with what he just established. Money making. Did you hear how he said money making and with the federal government? That is not the purpose of the federal government that is outlined in our Constitution. This is my whole problem. This is why I want less laws. This is why I want less economic regulations. That is not the function of the government. And people want to know why the American government is dysfunctional. He actually is trying to make an argument. And then within his argument there, is one of the major reasons why I think it's dysfunctional. You should not be sitting in a position of federal government and federal power and be sitting there thinking, how can we make this a money-making scheme?
Mm-hmm.
That is not
That's
what it is for.
That's literally why we hate all these senators investing.
Exactly.
It's because they're using their position in power as a money-making effort.
I thought that's what they wanted to get rid of.
Yeah.
We have to get rid of that mindset and those principles.
It is now the largest single problem in the federal budget. Why would you support a man that is exacerbating this issue and claims to care about it so much?
Right, I was answering the question. I mean, first of all, his suggested budget cuts $1.5 trillion. I wish it should be even more. Just so
That is not true.
No, it is. It's okay, you can look it up.
$1.5 trillion would be equivalent of cutting the entire American military budget and a half. Where is he getting? This is number essentially pulled out.
Again, it's $1.5 trillion. Again, the way that we do budgeting in America in a reconciliation process is over multiple budget cycles. So we're doing 3 budgets this year. I don't know how interested people will be in this. But it's wonky. But again, it literally has $1.5 trillion through this reconciliation process. With the largest middle class tax cut in history, I wish the cuts would be even more. Also, to say he's just doing the pandering to the ultra wealthy, he's advocating for raising taxes on the ultra wealthy. We'll see if that materializes.
That is an income tax. The ultra wealthy generally do not take a large portion of their income from an income tax and take it instead from capital gains. Fundamentally, increasing an 8% tax on Elon Musk, who takes like $10,000 as a salary or something stupid, will not make any material difference. This is a straw man argument, and it is obfuscating from the fundamental issue. This is a government for and run by oligarchs.
Funny you say that. You do know that richest people.
So to solve that, take away the government's incentive to be a money-generating apparatus. And magically it'll go away. That's my rebuttal to that guy that just got a round of applause. Yes, I agree with you, my man. So let's get rid of your mindset that the government sits there to generate money.
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's why they're embedded in it.
Yeah.
In America, vote Democrat almost 85%.
That is fundamentally not true. The richest, the most educated.
Okay, again, 9 out of 10 of the wealthiest counties in America vote Democrat. If you earn more than $300,000 US a year,
this is very good point.
75% clip. I mean, it is so overwhelmingly the Democrat Party is the party of the rich. Secondly, though, he's going out of his way to cut taxes for working people. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime, to the extension of the middle class tax relief. Again, I don't know how interesting this is for a UK audience, but more broadly, President Trump is doing the impossible, something I hope your government does. He is trying to cut taxes for middle-class people while also trying to balance the budget. I wish he would cut taxes even more. It's an ambitious project. I can support him completely in that endeavor.
The extent to which he's attempting to balance the budget is not necessarily true, given that the budget is currently at a higher deficit this current year, as it was at any point under.
I'm going to be honest. They've been using too big of words for me, so I keep zoning out. I would die if I were in a debate. I need time to translate advanced words to a dumbed-down version for myself. Well, and don't...
do not feel bad about that because John's more of a financial guy than me, so he's probably gravitating to a lot of this.
Oh, yeah, I understand everything that's going on.
And I am not going to lie to you. There was once or twice there where I zoned out.
Well, also, too, you're still so much younger, and I'm crusty and old. I've gone around the sun a lot. I've had enough time to dig into these things. Plus, to give you an idea, hold on a second. This baby that's sleeping on me is falling.
Squirmy little fish.
Okay, hold on. I'll be right back. Hold on.
He's got to take her up. While he's gone, I will say this though: I get embarrassed sometimes that I'm the age I am, and I don't know as much about like financial institutions and the government, and well, not the government, but like the government budgets and things, money wise, as people my age and John. But I also take it slow, and. In this setting, I would get destroyed because most of what I'd be like, dude, I don't know. I have no idea. I get in awkward situations a lot, but you do have to become comfortable with just flat out admitting to somebody, hey, I don't really know here. That's where I am on a lot of this stuff. And John's really good about not making me feel dumb for saying I don't know about the stuff and explaining as best as he can.
All right. Yeah, you know, I don't punish people for being ignorant because let's face it, this stuff's stuffy and boring. I'm just a giant pencil neck, and I understand that, like, I'm willing to go in and look at this stuff that's, especially for creatives. You two are very creative. You arguably, I bet both of you are more creative than I am. I still consider myself a creative person, but I'm in this odd, Kyle's known me long enough to know I'm in this odd spot where the light meets the dark. You know, in other words, between this very logical, rational, right brain type of a person and this creative person. I'm not the best at all of it. I'm good at understanding things if they speak slowly, but if they're speeding on to the next topic before I have time to think about it, I won't get it. Yeah, and that's a skill to practice.
Yeah, that's what I meant when I said in this format I would be really bad, because I have to take my time, and then, like, if somebody says something, I have to be able to be like, okay, hold up, what exactly does that mean?
So like any other debate, to give you like some hope, any other debate is once you learn the basic tenets of even these financial things, like, you know how you can just all of a sudden hear somebody in a moral debate and they'll say one thing and you're like, oh, everything stems from that. Yeah. That's what I did when he said the government should be generating money. Yeah. I don't, I don't drive on that. So I don't really have to listen to the rest of his thing in total captivation.
I will also say, too, that what they're talking about right now, this is what I think politics should be.
More.
This is what, if people are debating, that's what I think politics should be. The stuff that they were talking about with, like, abortion or like gender, like what gender is. I don't think
outside of politics.
I don't think that's politics.
That's why now you understand why on the compass test I was like, I want you to stay out of this. Yeah. I want to limit. It's not that I am pro-abortion. It's just that I see what happens when we let the people that have a monopoly on violence, which is the federal government, they have all the guns. Yep. Not really, but you get what I'm saying. They have a monopoly on violence, where if we give them a foothold of policing our life, which has been proven to me without any shadow of a doubt, they are only, do you give them a mile, they're going to take 10. Yeah. And does it make me uncomfortable sometimes in some of the concessions that I have to make to stay on my logical path? It does. I won't lie. There's some things that I would like to see legislated morally. But I have to maintain where I'm focused, which is no, we can't do that, because that's what got us into the trap of cancel culture. That's what got us into the trap of you have to take a vaccine to go get a cheeseburger, is because we allowed too much of that moral individual policing to take place. And we have to peel it all back. I want all of it to go away. Get it out of there. Get it out of there.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, where's my mouse?
I think any other president in history. I would also point to the fact that suggesting that Democrats overwhelmingly vote Democrats is true to a point. After a certain income, they overwhelmingly vote Republican because the tax breaks, kind of business interests and all this that Republicans offer them.
But there's no evidence of what he just said.
Yeah, that was a total hypothetical pulled out of where the sun doesn't shine, to use his phrase.
He basically just created that point to make his point.
Yeah, that's a logical pitfall.
Why is he engaging in all of this if he's trying to balance this?
First of all, some of them...
Can I finish my statement? Is it perhaps
I thought you were done, buddy.
And you've interrupted him like 7 times.
Fund super PACs, people that buy his Trump coin, people that are in fact in his cabinet, generally pay a lower de facto rate of tax because the IRS can no longer fund to actually investigate and audit them.
Okay, so
do Nancy Pelosi next.
So by defunding, again, the IRS is our tax collection agency, if you guys know, it's the Internal Revenue Service. I don't know what it's called here in the UK. So the equivalent is number 2. So you're not totally wrong about one portion of this, which is that more agents do equal more revenue. You have to have attention, though, of do you want to grow the IRS by 87,000 extra agents, which Joe Biden did? He's trying to peel that back. Do you believe in, or do you know the Laffer curve? Are you familiar with it? It's a belief that if you lower taxes, you can actually increase revenues because compliance goes up and economic growth goes up. We saw this in the United States during Ronald Reagan, during a massive tax cut, and it's called the Laffer curve. And so that's actually debated. Just because you cut taxes, you're going to run a deficit. But you're not totally incorrect. You are correct. And I will admit this point, that when you have less IRS agents, you are going to have less revenue. And I think that it's a good thing generally to have less IRS agents looking into the particulars of Americans. And we have a history over the last 10 years right now.
Especially the richest Americans.
Well, not necessarily. That's the thing. Is that the richest Americans actually are able to hire the tax attorneys and the accountants to get through IRS issues and get to settlement. What we see in the data is it actually ends up the middle class Americans because they do not have the same infrastructure.
He's correct about
this.
A very intense IRS agent.
All right,
I don't know a lot about finance. I do know little, though.
I think it is interesting to suggest that Donald Trump is the only president that is going to raise taxes on the country. I've already pointed out the potential flaws in that. I would also draw the audience's attention to the fact that Donald Trump is overwhelmingly backed by, supported by, funded by, and in fact stacked his cabinet, as I mentioned, by billionaires. And you yourself, in Turning Point,
In your guys' defense, this guy is very hard to understand.
For example, Foster Street, although sadly funded.
Yeah. We also have.
When you were founding, you were overtly reliant on this. So I would just like to point out that inconsistency. And I thank you for your
Yeah, great. Thanks.
So here's something else I'd like to add to that, and this would make the liberal in the situation pretty upset. The government needing to have a budget that big is a lot to do with currently propping up the social safety nets, okay? It is an enormous chunk of this. This needs to go away. And then they're going to say, but people are going to suffer. And I'm going to say this is true, but let's encourage people to donate more to charities, because before these existed, charities, moose lodges would get together and take care of communities and try to do their best to help people. If your idea cannot survive without the gun, which is the government, and I do mean that literally, then maybe it shouldn't exist. Mm-hmm. Okay? And is it sad and is it tragic? Well, you go start your charity. You go start your organization to go do the thing freely and make that change happen. I don't want to see this, because it's a moral issue, placed on the federal government. It is very clear that these moral issues are not supposed to be a part of what is the governance process.
Yeah. So this, by the way, I ranted to my brother-in-law about this. I don't know if I ever brought this up to you. This is something that I think is an underlying thing that not a lot of people recognize, but a lot of people recognize. You know what I'm saying? It's just not. I don't see it often articulated. Is people talk about the religious push right now in the United States, and they're saying it's toxic and, you know, all that kind of stuff. I don't think that they realize that just because that there was no official announcement that it's a religion, that the left side of the aisle, if I can be that bold on here, that has been a religion, and they made politics their religion, and the government's their church, and so that's why that's why they view it as the necessity to be charitable to other peoples, because that's the religion. So like just how you were like, you know, let the churches and the moose lodges and like the citizens like be charitable. Yeah. Like they think that the government is supposed to be charitable because they've subconsciously built a religion out of their political views, because they replaced God from their hierarchical structure of values and input the social.
The same problem that I had 2 debaters ago against Charlie about his moral absolutist stance being too rigid and authoritarian to maintain its control over society is the exact same gauntlet that they're trying to wield. Mm-hmm. It's the same framework that's not working. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's not going to work like that. Yeah. And what you're saying is, I'm just reiterating in my own way, to support what you said.
Yeah.
And that is, it's the same moral authoritarian approach. Mm-hmm. And I would prefer to, and I think we'd have a healthier world if the government just said, no more.
Yeah.
We don't do morals anymore. And then people are going to be like, what's your laws and this and that? It's just, it's gone too far.
Yeah.
We can all agree not to kill, not to rob, let's go back to the basics. Mm-hmm. It's gone too far.
Yeah.
It's gone too far when we're having a governance issue over the morality of whether or not you should receive a vaccination.
Yeah.
It's gone too far.
Yeah.
This has gone far too far.
Do you think this guy's going to shake? Oh, I was going to say, do you think he's going to shake his hand?
He did it.
He did.
All right. I'm still with you.
This is a professor, I'm guessing. Everybody's like, oh.
Fabulous.
I don't think that they're showing these clips in order.
Very, very short question. Israel versus Hamas. Good guy versus bad guy. Russia versus Ukraine. Who's the good guy and who's the bad guy?
Both are bad, one is worse.
Which way around?
Russia is worse than Ukraine.
Okay, so why haven't we pursued that?
What do you mean?
Well, it seems to me that in the whole of the current US proposition, that Ukraine is being the bad guy.
In what way? We funded Ukraine upwards to $200 billion.
Absolutely.
We
But
just signed a mineral deal with Ukraine, not Russia.
yeah, but you are expecting Ukraine to give up 20% of its territory to someone who invaded
Well, is Crimea part of Russia or Ukraine?
Ukraine.
That's where we don't agree.
Well, I'm afraid that's part of international treaty. That's not up for grabs.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, even Zelensky has said he's willing to give up Ukraine.
No.
Who's
America signed the agreement that gave Ukraine Crimea
Right.
when the Soviet Union ended.
Right. It was done. First of all, it never should have been done. It was largely ceremonial. But however, it was annexed under Obama. Yes, and it was a mistake, and it should be given back.
Now
to
this is
Russia
an
as a
issue where
sign of
Johnny's
good
lost.
gesture to end this
I don't
conflict.
honestly know enough
But
about
who's currently
this.
controlling Crimea? Where
Me
was the
too.
Russian Navy headquartered in World War II? Where was the end of World War II? Son? This is very
I'm not doubting that. I'm not doubting that. I'm just saying that if we're being logical on what has happened, that you are now arguing against that flow. And I don't understand it. Because actually, why is Ukraine the bad guy?
No, I said they're bad. They're not the bad guy.
Yeah, well, you said they were both bad, but one was more bad.
Correct. Yes.
So why is Ukraine bad?
Well, there's a lot wrong with Ukraine. First of all, they're not a democracy. Zelensky refused to hold an election.
Well, no, he can't hold an election.
Oh, wait, did Churchill hold an election during the war?
Because under his constitution...
Hold on, Lincoln held an election during the war. That's not true. He can call an election. He can call a snap election. He's full dictator of the country.
No.
Because he knows that the people of Ukraine
I
would
do
kick
know
him out
that
immediately
about
because
this,
he's
and
deeply
that- I do,
unpopular. In fact, if he wanted to show a statement to the world, he would call an election and win by 80% and say, see, I'm super popular. So that's number one. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with a person being propped up as a government we're sending $200 billion to that refuses even to face his voters.
Okay, I can't agree with you.
I also do think a regime change during a war would be brutal.
Ukraine is not able to hold an election because it's under military law at the moment, and that's just a matter of fact.
Again,
And it would be brutal,
as a
really.
prime minister,
Yeah, but
president,
that's the thing too. Is like Lincoln, like they had one over the American Civil War. Churchill did it over World War, and the people voted
Neither can the Americans.
to keep it because they understood that it would have been a bad regime change. So but you still got to trust the people to make that decision. That's kind of like the point. I feel like that's what I agree with
Yeah.
Charlie on
and they're
this.
very negative.
Firmly ahead in the opinion.
Again, but you would agree that a person that holds on to power without the election of the sovereign is pretty questionable.
No, not in those circumstances.
Okay, then we disagree.
No, okay, that's fine. That's fine. But give me another reason why Ukraine.
They are the most corrupt country in Europe that never even met the most remote standards of joining NATO. I do not know where a lot of this money is going.
That's
I
true.
don't disagree
I didn't know that.
there is a problem with corruption, but the most corrupt country in Europe, are you sure?
Let me just say this. This ought to give you a big hint, and this might seem like I'm big brain. John just told us he doesn't know about this, and I'm getting ready to drop some stuff on both of you about this. That you're gonna be like, well, it sounds like you know quite a bit about this. If you pay attention to the patterns that were happening in Ukraine, that led to the circumstances allowing the Biden family to send Hunter over there to make a bunch of money. It wasn't really just about the Bidens, okay? There was something, I'm not gonna go into all the details because I could talk for a long time about it, and I don't really wanna say some of the things that I have to say on stream to really get the point across, but there was a lot of, possibly, there was a lot of cuckoo things going on there that would make you raise an eyebrow when you pay attention to our government interacting with the Ukraine. Yeah. And so that is underneath all of this when both of these guys are discussing that. And I know that Charlie knows this. I know that he knows it. He might get ready to say it too.
I'd have to double or triple think about that, but they're very corrupt.
So that's a little bit down. It's not absolute.
I mean, well,
with corruption, I mean, let's face it, we are talking about comparison with some of the states you're doing business with in the Gulf.
Oh, of course, but we're not giving them money, they're giving us money. That's the difference, right? Saudi Arabia.
Oh, so it's fine.
Well, hold on a second.
It's morally acceptable to take money from corrupt people.
Well, hold on. First of all, as far as morally acceptable, you do what's best for the benefit of your country. So, for example,
see, that is why, and I'm going to get a little bit heated. That is why I push back on people that are so entrenched in the anti-abortion argument. Because he just said, well, yeah, if you wanted to take the moral stance on that, but I would take money from a corrupt country as long as it benefited my country. My guy, you sound like a woman justifying an elective abortion, in my opinion, when you do that. Because you just put your morals on the back. This is why I stopped following Conservative Inc. You put your morals on the back burner as soon as you started talking about accepting a paycheck from a possibly corrupt regime.
Yeah.
That's why I don't believe that they're sincere when they argue against the absolutist point of view of whether or not abortion should be a thing. That's why I think they're disingenuous, and I like to call him out on it. Because he just right there, and I will play it back because it was that important to me to notice that.
well, hold on. First of all, as far as morally acceptable, you do what's best for the benefit of your country.
As far as what's morally acceptable, I'm going to do what's best for my family and have this abortion.
Yeah.
That's why I can't hang with it. None of these guys are sincere, in my opinion, when they argue that, because he will use that for money. He will use that argument to benefit himself to make money. Now, I'm saying not him, but you get what I'm getting at.
I just want to say, too, like, I don't know why I'm just that guy, but it's just bothering me where this old guy chose to stand for this.
Me too. No, that bothered me. Why are you standing there, bro?
Like, what are you doing? You got to leave soon? Like, why are you out the door?
That's one of the reasons why I got tired of talking to people at church about that.
Yeah.
They would turn an eye to the activities of the people that tithe the most in that church that didn't seem like it aligned with church. And I'm being, why? And you're breathing down the neck of your volunteers, your slave labor.
Yeah.
You're breathing down the neck of your volunteers, but you won't chin check the kid that's being toxic, that's part of the family that keeps the church propped up.
Yep.
You put your morals on the back burner for that, and that is unfortunately what Charlie, representing Conservative Inc. in this conversation, did. And that's why I push back on him. It's like, how convenient that you can say, well, let's leave morals aside when it benefits my country. Let's leave morals aside when it benefits my young teenage daughter that's having an unwanted pregnancy from illegal circumstances that harmed her life. You know?
Yeah.
That's, there you go. Now you see what the funk I'm stinking.
So, for example, we were allied with Russia during the Second World War, and I'm glad we were. And I would ask you,
Don't forget.
How much money is too much money to send to Ukraine? We're at $200 billion right now.
I don't think you have to send any more money to Ukraine.
We agree.
I think you have to agree to support them as a free country and perhaps sell them weapons, like you're very happy to sell weapons to less free countries. And I think Europe will pick up the slack, as we ought to. And I don't disagree with some of the comments about Europe not looking after its own security. I just don't get this approach, which was supposedly to end the war quickly, which now seems to be elongating it, and in doing so, throwing up a smokescreen of very variable facts, if they are facts at all, about how things occurred, which actually isn't helping things. And if people can't see that Putin is stalling,
I agree with you. I think he might be stalling.
and therefore, and I think even your president has acknowledged the fact that he thinks he might be stalling.
Right. So we don't have a disagreement there.
No, we don't. No,
We just have a disagreement about the efficacy of tactics. And we don't know. And I'm willing to say we could be wrong.
No. Oh, well,
Of course you could be wrong in life. I mean,
we could all be wrong. But actually bringing that war to an end consistently actually isn't going very well. And I would just suggest to you...
Also, I feel like this current administration talked a really big game about getting that to stop and didn't seem to be able to pull the trigger on it.
And how America has been treating...
This is why you got to be careful in big boy land, I'll say.
Yeah.
When you start talking a big game like that, and then you sit down, because this has happened to me before in my line of work, You sit down in a meeting and all of a sudden you're like, oh man. And then after you know everything, you're like, oh my gosh. Okay, well, I don't like what's going on. I have different solutions, but now I kind of see, because I promise you, as soon as he got briefed on situations,
He was like, "Ah."
a lot of stuff changed. A lot of stuff changed. Ayako, to give you an idea, I essentially run a multi-million-dollar business. I'm not the owner, but I run the business. Like, nobody in that building knows the business better than me. It just gives you
sounded
small.
like Donald Trump when you said that.
I am very Trumpish. That's what I do for a living. I do everything that isn't the manufacturing part of our job. I'm not on the shop floor building the stuff, which is how we make money. So I treat those guys with respect because I don't have a job if they don't make money. But everything else that happens, I do. I'm the guy that talks to the feds. I'm the guy that deals with the state. I'm the guy that deals with MSHA, with all of the insurance companies, work comp, auto. I do all of that stuff. That's why I know about the finance stuff a little bit more than your average Joe. And I kind of understand this leadership kind of questions like this. I've got a crash course in that. Yeah, I see. Yeah. So I'm the de facto chief. There's an owner, but he defers to me.
What is in the least. But I've had enough of your time.
No, that's a fair contention. Thank you very much.
They were both gentlemen at the end of
I was
that.
going to say, that guy brought the energy in a good way. See, that's that demeanor
The
thing.
final question that we've got time
Here
for
we
today
go. Here's
is
your
from
boy.
Sammy McDonald from St John's College.
Yeah, Ed Sheeran. Oh my gosh. Looks like Ed Sheeran and Howdy Doody's love child.
Good evening, Mr. Kirk.
I already know. He had to finish his scotch.
You know who he actually looks like? And do you know what the lead singer of Sum 41 looks like?
Yes,
If that's
he
what
does
looks
look like him, dude.
A lot of your life to electing, keeping in power Donald Trump, and you did so partly because you said Trump would put Americans first and take them out of foreign conflicts. Should we see how that is going at the moment? Currently, Trump has just accepted a $400 million debt from Qatar, which we're assured is perfectly above board. Billions in arms are going to Saudi Arabia, which they're using to bomb and starve Yemeni children. Not sure how that's in the interest of the United States, but it might be in the interest of the $5.5 billion deal his sales sons are receiving. At the same time...
If you say the word five and it sounds like that, I don't want to listen to you. Five!
This great president of peace has greenlit mass killings not just in Yemen, but in Gaza, where he greenlit an invasion called Operation Gideon's Chariot, with the express aim of wiping out the Gazan population. You promised to put America first. Haven't you and your ilk sold America out?
No.
No.
Well, I'm glad you have great intellectual substance and can answer. Because it's all culture wars for you, isn't it? The second someone actually tells you what you're doing, which you just read...
Can you calm down a little bit? Like, just a little bit? You're pounding the table, you're all over the place. No. You want me to go piece by piece?
That was
or would
petty.
you like me to talk slower?
I think you can...
Number one, Donald Trump
Okay,
is convening a
but
peace
hold
deal
on
between
for a
Russia
second.
and Ukraine. Joe Biden gave...
So that was petty. And this is what bothers me, okay? And this is where I disagree with a lot of debate people is obviously that guy started it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that guy came up there with hostile energy, hostile postures, gestures, said everything he had to say as rude as he could. He didn't make a single gentlemanly point. And I think that at this point in our country, too many people are tired of taking blows. And so they are okay with responding in kind. And I get that.
Yes, I do too. I've experienced this.
But I still think, even though all that's true, you have to be better.
You do.
You have to. If you want
to make a change, you have to be better. If you want to just maintain the status quo, you punch back.
So I don't Because I can't even promise you that if I was in that place with that emotional energy and that guy acting that way, that I wouldn't slip up and get sassy.
I'll tell you how I would have answered him. I would have been like, no.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no. I would have been like, I agree with you, and I think that it's a good idea to point it out and for us to put pressure on that. But you have, if you're going to hold that lens, this is a thing that people don't do for themselves, okay? This is why dealing with toxic people is difficult.
Yeah.
You can't take that, I think it's unjust for you to take that lens that he just analyzed America with and try to slam dunk Charlie Kirk with, and you won't apply it to your own country or your own self.
Or they won't even apply it to the previous administration.
Or any other country. Well, that's what he's getting ready to point out right now, I think. You have to be able to apply that to yourself, otherwise you don't believe what you just said.
Can you not interrupt me? I allowed you to talk uninterrupted.
You're famous for not interrupting.
I haven't interrupted a single person here today. Can I speak uninterrupted, actually? He is convening a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. I believe we will see an end to that war. Number two, he's actually talking to Iran and discouraging Israel to strike the interior of Iran and has stopped many other international countries to do the same. Number three, can you give him credit for ending the Indian-Pakistan war?
Both of them said he didn't do that.
Well, hold on.
So let's go back.
No, that's
Russia, Ukraine.
That's important.
Can I speak now?
Yes, but the Indian-Pakistan thing, you got to go.
Stream promotion bot.
Let's go in order. Is a peace summit where the main person in question, Russia, doesn't show up? Is that a success, Mr. Kirk?
I'm not even sure.
A success?
Well, again, these are ongoing negotiations. And it's a lot better than when your Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, went alongside our Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, to Istanbul and unnecessarily blew up a potential Russian peace deal, which has resulted in hundreds of thousands of dead Ukrainians, one of the great unnecessary wars of the modern era. Donald Trump believes in conversation and believes through strength. He has been president for well over 120 to 130 days, and he has already ended a war between two nuclear conflicts of India-Pakistan. He has secured our own U.S. southern border while we were being invaded by foreign powers. And thirdly, he is brokering a potential settlement with Iran that will prevent a major escalation in the Middle East. And finally, it is very difficult, but I believe they'll get it done, that we'll finally see an end to the Russian-Ukrainian war.
I'm just going to disregard the enormous lies you just put out there about Russia and Ukraine. But do you really think...
Okay, so now this guy's just proven that he's completely disingenuous.
And scream at one party in the Oval Office. Don't you think that has just emboldened Russia? Because look at the approach. Putin thinks so much of your glorious president, he can't even be asked to show up.
You know what I'd be tempted to say from now on? I'll just disregard everything you just said and I'll continue.
Yeah.
You can't just do that.
Yeah.
You can't just say, well, I'm going to disregard all of that. No, you can't just do that.
Elected or help elect somebody who is at best...
Especially when you came up making accusations.
Exactly.
Okay, again, so Trump and Putin had a 2-hour phone call today. You'll acknowledge that's a good thing. The pursuit of peace can sometimes be a winding road, and it's a lot better than sending hundreds of billions of dollars further into the killing fields of eastern Ukraine, something that tragically both the UK government and the US government has been unnecessarily supporting for a couple of years. President Trump wants to see a brokerage, an ending of this settlement. I pray we can get it. It's very complicated because of the mess that Joe Biden left, which was an active kinetic war with a nuclear power.
His hair's triggering me. Comb that thing. It's brutal.
Russia. So President Trump has already ended a war. He's ended an invasion. He's only 130 days into this. And I believe, we do not know. At this point, we are merely speculating, which I think we should not spend our time doing that, because eventually one of us will be right. I believe we'll be right. I believe we'll see an end to this war.
We just talk about 100 billion's worth of weapons, because you dodged my question on what was going on in the Middle East, where Trump has just signed enormous arms contracts with Saudi Arabia and with Qatar. And I noticed you ignored the fact that this might have had anything to do with the blatant corruption going on through the Trump coin and going on through giving the very competent sons of Donald Trump billions of investment from Saudi Arabia and Qatar. This is something that is directly embroiling Americans into conflict, but is importantly killing many innocent people. Those nations have been known to terrorize innocent civilian populations. So if you're coming to me and you're objecting to America selling weaponry, why are you defending shilling for the Saudis?
Well, hold on. One is sending weaponry, one is purchasing. Secondly, you do know that the biggest purchase that was announced was commercial airliners, 737, $100 billion. We've heard of Qatar Airways. They purchased $100 billion of commercial airways. You are right, there were some weapons contracts. But I guess the question is, would you rather have Saudi Arabia buy weapons from America or China?
I'd rather they not have American weaponry at cut price rates.
I disagree.
Let's talk about
I think
Qatar for a second.
Okay, fine.
You mentioned Qatar. You've been talking a lot about Hamas and the evils of Hamas. Can I ask you, who is the main funder of Hamas?
Well, the Palestine. Well, the West actually funds
Dude had like
Hamas.
80 cups of coffee before he
Iran
walked up there.
No.
And also Qatar funds Hamas. It is a combination of
Is this a state which should have
international
a
organizations.
400 million jet with the President of the United States?
Well, hold on. First of all, it was not given to him personally. I understand the optics of it, but it was not given to him personally. It was given to the U.S. government. And under that standard, no U.S. government should ever receive any gifts from any foreign countries whatsoever. It's not given to him personally, and not a violation of it.
Why is he trying to transfer it to his personal library? He is.
Actually, okay, he sent out a statement. This is way too in the weeds. If you want to keep on going it, we can.
It's a fundamental moral principle.
Okay, so under that fundamental moral principle then, can you acknowledge, though, that President Trump is getting more done in a less period of time than any president we've seen, while our prior president did not even know what year he got elected? You understand the contrast here?
What aboutism again? I'm not a defender of Biden.
No, I'm not saying President Trump is far better than the predecessor.
You have to defend the person you spent millions to
I will defend every day of someone who ends an invasion.
That's all you do,
who brings down the price of oil, who is revitalizing the American economy, who is brokering peace, who stopped the potential nuclear war, who is bringing Iran to the table and bringing Russia to the table, someone who does not want armed conflicts with the greatest powers of our time. I will defend that endlessly. What are you defending?
In a fantasy world of your own creation. So it's quite hard to engage
that, but then disprove it.
So
let's check
this kid,
how Trump is doing in terms
and
of
I'm going to call him a kid. I don't even care.
You can call him a kid.
With the war in the Middle East, do you think it was a defensible decision?
He just says the most outlandish insult things that he can come up with. He's not even trying to discuss stuff.
No, he's there impressing his buddies.
Yeah.
Thousands of innocent children and civilians in a pointless war. Is that in America's interest? Is that in humanity's interest?
Well, first of all, you should know something about Trump. There's something, if you realize with Trump over the last 10 years, he is quite the social media user and uses hyperbolic language at times. But let me ask you, in the conflict of Israel versus Hamas, who's the good guy?
I believe both Hamas and the Israeli government are evil, but I think also there is no justification.
Are they equally?
There is no justification for the murder and mutilation of thousands of innocent people and children.
But let's
futile. There is no justification for invading hospitals.
What'd she say?
Yeah, that kid is on something. Yeah, that dude's high as a kite.
You've made that point, but
well, it's not a point; it's a moral truth, isn't it?
Okay, yeah. It was also a moral truth that the war started because 1,300 Jews were killed and 200 were taken hostage. And when you declare war on Israel, expect a firestorm in reaction. Let me finish, I let you talk. Israel, at its holiest day of the calendar year besides Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, Samat Torah, the 50-year anniversary of the Six-Day War. On Shabbat, Hamas invaded Israel, deciding to go recklessly to music concerts, to homes, to kibbutzes, and taking 200 plus hostages. They knew what they were doing. In one of the most cloistered urban environments on the planet, 2 million people live in a place where it's impossible to wage war. Impossible. Where they wear civilian clothing, they violate every tenet of the Geneva Convention, and the IDF, when they do something right, they get no credit. When they do life-saving surgeries of a Gazan child, they get no credit. When they drop leaflets, they get no credit. But when they happen to bomb a place where they are operating their military from, which we now know from third-party verified sources, hundreds of Hamas military operations are in mosques, schools, and hospitals. I'm sorry, the country where they were living in relative peace on October 6th, that all of a sudden we had a war, and Hamas started the war. And I don't see people that were really upset about the 2 million Germans that were killed in World War II, civilians. A tragic truth of war is that civilians die. I don't like it, and you don't like it. And they brought it upon themselves. The only operation and entity to blame is the leadership of Hamas, not the Israeli government, for fighting this defensive war after they were invaded.
I'm no defender of the terrible pogrom that was launched against Jews on that day. But the justification for the death of innocents cannot be an infinite cycle of bloodlust. It cannot be killing tens of thousands of innocent civilians with a war with no end in sight, people who were not complicit in those atrocities. It cannot be bombing hospitals which children use. It cannot be bombing hospitals in which cancer patients are dying and starving in there. The deaths that have been inflicted, nobody knows the true toll, but somewhere between 50 and 100,000 people lie dead under the rubble. And what is left for Gaza except for to continue to suffer under Hamas? Because it turns out Netanyahu's political strategy has not worked. It has entrenched Hamas within the territories. To be a Christian, I would have thought, Mr. Kirk, would never have involved suggesting that the price for an atrocity must be an infinite cycle of bloodlust, that innocent people and the young population must be killed to avenge some kind of providential crisis. How can you call yourself a Christian? Well, you just did.
I want to make sure we get our moral clarity straight before we proceed. No one likes what's happening in Gaza. No one with a heart or a soul or a mind likes when kids die. But you must understand who started the conflict so that you can end it correctly. And until Hamas brokers an unconditional surrender, of which they are unwilling to do, they could release the hostages and drop their weapons and their lives would be spared. Instead, they are using children of Gaza as cannon fodder, financed by the Iranian mullahs and dragging the entire world into this conflict. So, I don't even know what we're debating at this point other than I believe that Israel, I believe the facts, Israel was unconditionally attacked on October 7th. They're responding in kind. And I would just ask you a very simple moral question. How should Israel have responded?
Not with the blanket carpet bombing of the city, not with bombing hospitals. Of course, some kind of military operation might have been necessary, but not murder on this scale. There is no justification for what is happening with the enormous death toll that is being produced. I really cannot see how you come here and you have the gall to lecture us on Christian morality and then sit here and justify the murder of thousands of civilians. And is it working, Mr. Cook? It's a massive
I've never said that.
You just did.
Well, no,
this is your whole
in war, these are called casualties of a war.
We're going to
Okay?
stop bringing this
Again,
to close.
I'm not going to justify every military maneuver of a 100,000 person army. Instead, what I will do is I'll be clear that there is a good guy and there is a bad guy. I honestly...
Is that the morality of a child?
Well, hold on. It's interesting you say that.
What does that got to do with
Because
anything?
a child who knows that
A kid
Israel is
can't
the
be
good
right?
guy, Hamas is bad, has a lot more wisdom than a student like yourself at Cambridge University.
I will be glad.
He just took the room out with that one.
Somebody who has defended the genocide of the Palestinian people, and I think you will have to reckon one day that you have reckoned with.
Interesting. I want to close on this. So can you tell me what African countries?
His
currently
body
undergoing a
language,
civil
the
war?
way he looks, and the way he speaks
Okay, good.
is so
Who's the-
unprofessional and
how about the,
immature. It
Southeast
absolutely
Asian
kills me.
country has an ethnic cleansing going on?
Yeah, it's
And
intense.
you have strong opinions on those
And he
sides?
thinks he's better than you.
Like you, take an effort to be informed about foreign policy and to come to conclusions. You are a culture warrior. I believe when everything is done, Mr. Kirk, people will see you and the people you supported as corrupt, as selling the country out to the lowest bidder, and of doing irreparable damage to a country I'm sure we all deep down love.
The difference.
You will have to reckon with that.
The difference
Mr. Kirk.
is when.
This is what I don't understand about people of that ilk. He didn't say anything like he basically. I'll let Charlie say something. I
The
guess.
difference is when we get our way, we'll still have a country, and your country will be a third world hellhole.
Damn, that ended on that.
I love that, dude.
Oh my gosh, dude! I love that he ended. I guess his people. Yeah, that's his.
Okay,
page,
now
so-
let's revisit these comments. I'm not
Okay.
going to read them, but these are unfounded. Charlie Kirk didn't get drug in this.
No.
He did just fine. I think he did a great job.
Yeah,
I give him like a solid 7.
yeah.
Maybe an 8 if I thought about it harder, but he at least gets a 7 out of 10 for that.
That last kid that brought all the applause. If you really dissect what he said in defense of his position, he didn't say anything.
He didn't say anything.
He basically said, he was like, hey, how would have you have acted if someone used a hospital and like bombed you from it? Now I don't know everything that goes on with the history of that, and I think it's a sticky situation. So I'm just
She said, laugh out loud, great ending.
But how would you act if somebody bombed you and then hid in a hospital and like you had to go in and get them? How would you deal with that? And he said, well, I wouldn't have bombed innocent children. I would have done it in a military action in a way that no innocent people would have died. It's like, what did you just say? Hey, I would have done it the way that was perfect. You know, like
Yeah,
you didn't
don't
say
know about
anything.
what war is perfect.
Yeah, you didn't address the nuance of the situation. You just basically said, "Well, I would answer that question in a way that was right,
In a way that was perfect for me to win this argument.
exactly." It's like you can't. Everyone's cheering for that guy, but it's silly because
What the hell's going on here?
that's earlier. I said, "What is Eric Bogenhagen doing?"
But yeah, no, it's yeah.
That girl that somehow managed to, her section of the video was on 2 times speed. She made like a couple decent points. But I feel like that he didn't get dog walked like everybody said he did.
No, not even close.
Not even close.
Not even close. Not even close. He did just fine.
Yeah.
I think he did really well. And there was a couple of moments there clearly where I was pushing on it a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too is, like I said, he still did a lot of the thing that I don't like, where people like he's hostile, and that's that debate bro culture.
Yeah. Well, that's why I kind of started tuning out of a lot of these guys, including Charlie Kirk, because I can't. This is hateful. This one right here.
Which one?
Is hateful.
Yeah, that one I don't like. I've seen that.
So let's see. We've been going for 2.5 hours. It's 11:30 at night. I don't mind staying up for a little bit longer. Let's ask our viewer, Ayako. Was there any of those things that you would like to hear us talk about? Do you want us to watch another clip? Do you want us to just yammer? Or are you going to bed? It's a good time to go to bed. You have a video you'd want us to watch? Is there a tough question that's coming up in your world that you'd like to hear us talk about? I liked that. That was enjoyable.
That was kind of fun.
Some of my favorite debates still, though, are the William Lane Craig, and then there's some John Lennox ones. Those are just beautiful
I like
debates.
that. Wow, what is his name? Os Guinness?
Os Guinness.
Is that the guy that debated Richard Dawkins?
He may have.
I don't think it's Os Guinness. Who is?
She said I zoned out for most of the time. I don't know what they were talking about half the time.
That's fair. No, it's not Os Guinness. He used to do stuff with RZIM.
It's probably Dr. John Lennox.
Maybe. Yep, that is.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
He's
man.
becoming more mainstream lately.
He's a powerhouse, and the way he debates is a perfect way to.
I love his debates. He's very respectful,
so good,
and poignant, and he very calm, doesn't lose composure. I love John Lennox.
There isn't a topic or anything, Ayako, that you would like to hear us talk about, or maybe watch a clip. Anything going on in debates in your school or anything that you'd like to hear us talk about while we wrap this up? We'll probably end pretty soon, but before we end it, I'd like to offer that to you in case there was something you wanted to hear while the debating stuff is fresh on your brain.
Energy.
And we are charged up. We'll probably talk for a little bit after stream too. Yeah, man. Waiting for the 45-second delay on YouTube. Okay, no questions. Nothing weird going on over there. Cool. Well, that was entertaining and fun. This guy's a nugget. Hassan Piker. Is that Thomas Sowell?
It sure is.
Powerhouse. Man, his book, you ought to read it one day. White Liberals and Black Rednecks.
Yeah.
You'll learn so much, man. So much about your modern political issues and so much about the like odd parts of the history of America will make sense.
I doubt it. It's on Spotify, but I wonder if it is.
I bet it is. Yeah, we used to watch lots of debates. We used to talk a lot about this stuff. We used to have to be pretty up and in tune with a lot of that. Because, man, those kids would have a lot of questions in that class.
Yeah. It's on there, but you actually have to buy it.
Okay. It's awesome, man. I might listen to it again.
But
it's pretty cool if you're interested. It's hefty though.
yeah.
Like it's heavy duty. Like it's very academic. It's one of them things. It's not like you're gonna go through and just read it and have fun with it necessarily. It's there's a dumb guy on the Jubilee one too. Pretty sure that's a YouTuber they were talking about in the beginning. Oh,
That one, that Charlie Kirk verse 25 books.
Okay.
Oh, because he said he debated the person twice. Is it that little blonde kid that?
I have no idea. Here, I'll click on it. We'll satisfy our curiosity and just kind of skim through it. I'm not going to watch this whole thing. I'm just kind of curious.
Do you think men can give birth?
I think that.
Yes or no question?
I think that a person who is assigned male at birth, I don't think they
Assigned
can give birth.
male at birth, so people are not male at birth?
I think that a person.
See, your evidence that college is a scam, my friend.
So what do you say in some cases
That
women
guy.
IUDs are murderers?
Of course not, they're not murders.
So what's the difference between an IUD killing a conceived zygote
Because-
and like a mother going to Planned Parenthood and killing the fetus in her womb?
That was actually the best point somebody made.
It's not about the cell.
Alive from 19 kids that are attacked.
Case of the mother.
Now, so
Cultural.
Cultural
Well, in the original script.
you know, but that just
do with because I think that
Bay Area-
of the election, they're not.
That girl's horrible.
I could only imagine. She's built like she stinks. No, I'm just kidding.
He might be the end. See that's where all the views are.
Oh, right here.
And he's really popular.
No. We'll find him. I think he's right at the beginning, isn't he?
Is he? Yeah.
This could take a while.
Okay, first of all,
Do
there's
we have our terms correct? We agree?
actually no. So first
Not
of
that
all,
guy.
I'd like
It's
to
not this
define our
guy.
terms. I
Got
have
it.
2 points to bring up after that though.
This
So
is what
to
she
define
said.
murder is like intentionally like killing a human being. I think that's a very poor way to define murder because if someone were to like break into my home and point a gun at the heads of me and everybody I love, and I intentionally kill them to prevent them from killing my family, I don't think I murdered them, right? So I would define murder as the unjustified termination of a human life.
You're making a good point. Let me further clarify that. So, self-defense is very warranted.
So it's not that
Exactly.
guy. Well, I don't know which guy it
I can
is.
see where you're going to go with how that.
You know
this
who
could
that
go with
is, though,
abortion,
right? Don't you?
but
That
we can
one
go
guy
down
in the
that
middle,
road.
I think.
No,
Yeah,
do
so
you know
I mean,
who
like,
that guy is, though, that he's
I
talking to right
give
now?
my argument
No.
in
You don't
terms
know
of
him?
pro-choice, why I think it's justified. But first, I
Is he a
think that,
YouTuber also?
your position
He's
is
a
quite absurd,
YouTuber.
right?
He's
Because
someone
we're
that's
saying that
trying.
it's murder
They're
to
trying
kill.
to prop
claim
up
is
now on that side of the political spectrum
that-
to be like a big deal, but he keeps losing his cool
Am I looking at
Yes,
it?
you
and
are.
going
A man that's
absolutely
defeating
bonkers and has pretty much
Adonai.
destroyed
You
his
know what
career.
Adonai is? It's the Hebrew word
Is
for
it this
God.
guy?
It's actually genderless, but in the scriptures they use he, right? And they use the masculine. Jesus Christ came to earth as a man, not
Wait
as
till
a
she
woman,
catches
not
up.
genderqueer. But let's go back to the.
But God the Father's a man, right?
Well,
Because all fathers are men.
Well, first of all, there's a Trinity. So God the Father is neither man nor woman. He is omniscient, omnipotent. He is all being on top.
So
of
why
it.
do you use he?
Well, I did not. The scriptures do. You could use woman. You could say her. You could use him. But the way that the language is structured, again, it is so. God the Father is so above gender. It is so above any of our understanding.
And why use
with
him?
Glory and understanding. Again, because you have to make a choice, either he or him or her in the original scriptures. Let's go back to. I'm happy
Some
to get
fathers
into
aren't men and boys.
So
Okay, she thinks
So
it's
some
this
fathers
guy.
are not men and boys, not men or boys.
I'm sorry. What
Some fathers are
Not
not
sure.
male.
Though.
No, of course they are. I'm not.
Wait, so God the Father's a male?
Hold on. God the Father. So where did we get God the Father from? What Greek
Well,
word?
from your scripture.
Well, from Abba, right, which is a very close personal term.
You're not answering my
right?
questions and you're bringing up random language that doesn't matter.
Well, it actually does.
No, it
Okay?
doesn't.
He's answering your
Let me
question,
get down
dude.
to the root of it,
Because he's not a man. You know he's not a man under your worldview. You still use his preferred pronouns. You still call him a man.
Christ is a
But you
man.
don't do that with trans people because you're transphobic. That's why.
Okay, got it. But Christ is a man. I'm happy to get into
Okay, got
the
it.
sexuality and
Before
gender
incarnation, he's not.
of the Trinity. Okay.
Before incarnation, there's no penis, there's no XY chromosomes, there's no
Well,
small
hold on a
gametes.
second. Let's think about it. If that's correct, how is it then Jacob saw the face of God?
Okay, so if there's
Hold on. If there was nothing before the incarnation, how did Jacob see the face of God? How did Jacob wrestle with God?
Characters can have faces without biology.
How did Jacob wrestle with God?
So okay, do you think that he has a body?
Well,
or was that a figurative notion of wrestle?
That's a mystery of the scriptures. I'm not here. Well, it is. I'm not here to debate theology. Can we go back to
So,
what
wait,
we're
does
talking
he
about?
actually have biology? You keep trying to pivot because you know this debunks you.
Well,
what
it doesn't-
biology
it
does your
doesn't-
God have?
Well, the one of Christ our Lord.
No, I meant
right?
before incarnation.
Well, to be honest, I don't quite know, and I
You
don't
don't
think
know?
the scriptures
So
are.
you don't know what a man is?
Well,
You can't define what a man is?
It's a little opaque. Again, you're looking at a man.
But your video,
God-
the largest video on TikTok is, what is a woman, 20 million views? You don't know what a man is under your own worldview?
I said you're looking at a man, right?
Wait, but
Am I
God
looking
the
at a
Father
man?
doesn't meet that criteria.
Because not even letting,
Yes, you are.
listening to him long
a man
enough
that's
to
beating you in a debate right
properly
now.
retort
So
him.
let me ask you a question, though. So, do you think that anybody can become a woman?
I think that anyone who meets my criteria is a woman.
What's your criteria?
Again, adult human person that has a desire to be in accordance with a particular set of social and cultural norms that are typically associated with the female sex.
Can
Oh
society
my
ever be-
gosh.
What?
Sure, but like it's a desire to be in accordance with a set of social and
Can I-
cultural
can I-
norms.
can I
It's not
become black
society,
if I
it's
Is
wear
this
blackface?
it? Did she say?
No, because it's not
She
a
thinks this
desire
is
that
this
you have to
guy.
be in accordance
I
with a
don't.
particular set of
What
social
if somebody
cultural
wants
norms,
to be black?
Because race is defined phenotypically based upon the expression to other people.
But you're by some standard you're judging that.
Do you think there's a phenotypical expression of someone who's white and someone who's black? Like I see you're white because of your phenotypical expression.
Right. So, but do you think? But Rachel Dolezal that said she is black and culturally black, is she black?
Does she have phenotypically?
She said it's definitely this guy.
characteristics associated
Define
with people who are black?
phenotypical. I'm not sure what that word.
Phenotyp-
So-
it's going to be the expression.
So
of
melanin
particular
content, one
characteristics.
skin.
Yes.
Okay. So she could pass as a black person.
Wait, so she doesn't have the melanin content?
She's borderline.
No.
Heavily.
Okay, so then she's not black.
Okay. So you're able to say who is black and not black.
That's how we define it in society. No.
Okay, got it. So, but is there an objective definition of who is black?
Wait, language is all subjective. Linguistics professionals indicate it's subjective.
Language is all subjective.
What's
Yes,
with the
absolutely.
flags?
Every
I
word
forgot.
that is used was created by
I
other
can't
human beings
remember.
that are engaging
I think
in
if they get too many
conversation.
flags, they have
Everything
to
is
switch
created by
out
God,
or
and then it's still
something.
Okay.
subjective
But now,
because it came
now
from
we're
God.
getting somewhere.
God's a
So
subject.
now we're getting somewhere. Is the word and the value behind murder objective or subjective?
Well, I think morality is subjective. But you think it's subjective
it is.
too because
So
it comes
hold
from
on.
God.
That's interesting.
Wait,
So-
does it come from God or independent of God?
Well, no, of course it comes from God. It's
If it-
transcendent.
that's
it's
subjective.
transcendent human beings.
That's
No,
subjective. Yes, it is.
No.
If it comes from God, it's specifically subjective. If it comes independent of God, then it's objective.
No,
what
it's
you
a-
just told me
God-
is
God is
also
objective
compatible
morality.
with moral anti-realism.
So let's go back to the Ten Commandments.
You don't understand
right?
meta-ethics.
Well, I hold on a second.
What does subjective morality mean? What does it mean?
Subjective morality
Define
means
it.
that it comes in everybody's own opinion, their own form,
True
not
dependent upon a
objective.
stance.
Again,
God is a stance, and that's the truth
hold on
of
a second.
morality.
So if let's believe. Do you believe in the? If everybody believed in the concept of God, the transcendent God, that there was a Ten Commandments?